Chapter 642. On the 98th floor of the Immortal Ascension Tower. Above the sea of clouds, 3 primordial Great Void stage cultivators were fighting for the ownership of the cave dwelling with their own methods. The 3 of them were locked in a fierce battle. Suddenly, a void fragmentation chi force descended from the sky. Under that chi force, the 3 primordial Great Void stage cultivators' expressions changed. A void fragmentation old monster. They could only see that the void fragmentation realm cultivator was a white-robed young man. Before they could see his appearance clearly, they were sent flying by the white-robed young man's sleeves. I want to enter the cave dwelling to take a look. Those who are not involved, please leave. On the 74th floor of the Immortal Ascension Tower. At the bottom of a certain abyss, there was a supreme-grade cave dwelling. Above the abyss, a fierce-looking old man covered in scales was sitting on the back of a huge flaming bull. He was staring coldly at the 2 primordial sword cultivators below. I have the help of the red beast. Even if the 2 of you attack together, you won't be able to defeat me. The scaled old man sneered and was about to attack the 2 people below. Suddenly, a void fragmentation chi force pressed down fiercely. Under this chi force, the flying swords in the hands of the 2 primordial sword cultivators began to tremble. The flaming bull, which had a ferocious look in its eyes, suddenly showed fear and prostrated on the ground. As for the scaled old man, the smile on his face froze. He looked at the white-robed young man who was walking towards him with fear. I want to enter the cave dwelling to take a look. Those who are not involved, please leave. Bye. By Mu. This person is a void fragmentation old monster. First heavenly layer of void fragmentation realm. I'll fight. If I join forces with the red beast, I can barely defend myself against some void fragmentation old monsters. This person wants to snatch my cave dwelling. It won't be that easy. The scaled old man's face darkened. He was about to use a secret technique to forcefully control the flaming bull to attack the white-robed young man. At this moment, the white-robed young man lifted his finger and pointed down from the air. It was just a casual point of his finger. Moreover, it was tens of thousands of zhang away. However, it felt like his finger was pressing on the old man's chest. The old man's face was filled with shock. Suddenly, he vomited blood and flew backwards. He fell off the bull's back and fainted. Before he fainted, the old man's heart was filled with shock. Bai Mu's strength was far beyond any first heavenly layer void fragmentation realm old monster he had ever seen. Immortal Ascension Pagoda, Level 51. The cave abode on this level was built in the middle of a sea of lightning. Inside the cave abode, there was a lightning cultivator at the Gue Yuan lightning realm. He had defeated several old monsters of the same level with his lightning path divine art and seized the cave abode. He was quite proud of himself. Just as he was feeling proud of himself, the sea of lightning outside the cave suddenly boiled, and lightning flashed everywhere. After a while, the sea of lightning gradually calmed down. The elemental returning lightning cultivator's spiritual sense probed, and a look of shock appeared on his face. However, a young man in white clothes seemed to ignore the might of the sea of lightning. He was stepping on the sea of lightning and walking toward the cave abode calmly. In front of the young man, the lightning split into a silver path. It was as if the sea of lightning was welcoming the young man. The young man's pace was not fast, but with every step he took, circles of lightning ripples would reverberate. Every step he took seemed to be stepping on the Taoist heart of a thunder cultivator, causing his demon soul, which had almost completely turned into thunder, to tremble. Void. Void fragmentation old monster. Furthermore, this old monster's lightning Tao divine art far surpasses my understanding. He is almost a lightning monarch. The elemental returning lightning cultivator knew that the reason why this old monster crossed the sea of lightning was to enter the cave abode. After witnessing the strength of this old monster, the elemental returning lightning cultivator immediately gave up the cave abode and left in a ray of traveling light. He did not dare to fight with this old monster at all. Ning Fan did not know that after he entered the 100 floors of the cave abode, he gradually attracted the attention of most of the cultivators outside the Immortal Ascension Tower. Outside the Immortal Ascension Tower, dozens of old monsters of the Primordial Palace erected a gigantic demon stele. The stele only recorded the names of those who entered the first 100 floors of the cave abode. All the old monsters who entered the Immortal Ascension Tower carried the jade token given by the Primordial Palace. It was their identification. If those who carried the jade token entered the first 100 floors of the cave abode, their names would appear on the demon stele from 1 to 100. The person who was ranked first on the demon stele was an old monster who was a rogue cultivator from the demon sea of the central region. His Dao name was Tan Longzi. He was at the 7th heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. He was the one with the highest cultivation base among all the people who entered the tower this time. Hence, he deserved to occupy the first floor of the cave abode. The people who were ranked 2nd to 5th on the demon stele were experts who were famous in the demon world. If these people were placed in the lower 3 realms, they would certainly be powerful and influential figures. However, in the demon world, they were not the strongest experts. The person who was ranked 6th was He Shirshio, who had a mysterious identity. To others, this person's identity was mysterious. To the demon emperor old monsters, it was better for them to keep his identity a secret. From the 7th to the 12th floor, 6 of them were 4 void fragmentation old monsters. From the 13th to the 20th floor, they were all void fragmentation old monsters. After the 20th floor, there were still 2 void fragmentation old monsters. However, they could not get into the first 20 floors of the cave abode. In the end, they could only give up. The occupants of the first 20 floors of the cave abode only changed a few times. After that, they never changed again. In the first 46 floors, the battles between the void fragmentation realm old monsters gradually stopped. The one who guarded the 100th floor of the cave abode was the great elder Zhou Nan of the Primordial Palace. Naturally, no one could snatch the cave abode from him. Between the 47th floor and the 100th floor, the battles between the Absolute Void and Guiyuan Great Void cultivators gradually intensified. Numerous Absolute Void cultivators and Guiyuan Great Void cultivators were fighting for the abode of the first 100 floors. In the beginning, the Absolute Void cultivators who were fighting for the abode would usually be snatched away by Guiyuan Great Void cultivators before they could even warm their seats. After a series of fierce battles, the occupants of the first 100 floors of the cave abode gradually stopped changing. Currently, it was already the 4th night watch period. There were less than 8 hours before the end of the grand competition. Some cultivators closed their eyes and pretended to sleep, waiting for the final result of the grand competition. Some cultivators, on the other hand, were paying attention to the demon stele with great interest. Every time they saw the occupants of the first 100 floors of the cave abode change, they would comment on it. Look, the occupants of the 54th floor have changed. Venerable Lord Shi Ling of the Western Demon Sea defeated the clan leader of the Water Hawk clan and occupied this floor of the cave abode. Aya, the occupants of the 69th floor of the cave abode have changed. It's the Demon King of the Branch Sea of the Eastern Demon Sea. He has obtained this floor of the cave abode. Oh! Look, the occupants of the 71st floor of the cave abode have changed twice in a row. It seems like the battles on this floor are quite intense. Most of the people who would make such a fuss were low-grade cultivators with unstable temperaments. All the true old monsters understood one thing. The change of occupants of the cave abode was only temporary until the very last moment. The Yuan Emperor and the other demon sovereigns closed their eyes, no longer paying attention to the battles on the 46th floor. To experts at their level, only the battles between Void Fragmentation Realm experts could attract their attention. Strange. That Bai Mu could withstand my attack and destroy my Dao heart. With his strength, he should be able to occupy the first 100 floors of the cave abode. Why haven't I seen his name on the demon stele until now? Yuan Tong frowned with a gloomy expression. Of course, he was not concerned about Ning Fan. He was just puzzled. Bai Mu, you're just an ant. The competition of the Immortal Ascension Pagoda will end in 8 hours. Everyone will leave the Immortal Ascension Pagoda. At that time, I will avenge you. Don't think about Bai Mu anymore. Quickly follow the mnemonic chant I taught you and restore your Tao heart. The Ape Emperor harumphed with dissatisfaction. Yes. Yuan Tong dared not let his imagination run wild. He immediately closed his eyes and cleared his mind of distracting thoughts. Then, he circulated his qi and chanted the mnemonic chant. At this moment, someone suddenly exclaimed. How? How is this possible? The owner of the 100th floor has changed. In an instant, all the cultivators on the jade platforms scanned the demon stele with their spirit sense. Even the expressions of the Ape Emperor and the other sovereigns changed slightly as they looked at the demon stele. The 100th floor was supposed to be the most inconspicuous cave abode in the first 100 floors. However, it was the great elder of Yuan Palace who was in charge of this cave abode, which made it very eye-catching. Those who understood the situation guessed that great elder Zhou Nan stayed on the 100th floor because he was too embarrassed to compete with others for the first 20 floors. No one doubted that Zhou Nan had the strength to enter the top 20. No one thought that Zhou Nan's cave abode would be taken away. However, at this moment, Zhou Nan's name on the 100th position on the demon stele was indeed fading away bit by bit. Who was it? Who took away the cave abode from Senior Zhou Nan? Zhou Nan's name gradually disappeared from the demon stele. What appeared next was a name that shocked everyone. Bai Mu. How is this possible? Bai Mu is just a void inquiry stage cultivator. How could he have the strength to snatch the cave abode from great elder Zhou Nan? Great waves surged in the hearts of countless old monsters. This was something that was simply impossible, so why did it happen? Could it be that great elder Zhou Nan gave the cave abode to Bai Mu on his own accord? An old monster suddenly voiced out his doubt and looked in the direction of Yuan Emperor. His doubt alerted all the old monsters on the scene and they all looked at Yuan Emperor. Yes. That must be it. Bai Mu most likely had some relationship with Yuan Palace. That was why Zhou Nan gave up the cave abode. It was impossible for Bai Mu to defeat Zhou Nan. Some of the old monsters recalled that Yuan Emperor had stopped the Ape Emperor from entering the Immortal Ascension Tower to capture Bai Mu. At first, these old monsters thought that Yuan Emperor was just trying to protect the participants from being bullied and humiliated. Now, it seemed like Bai Mu probably had some relationship with Yuan Palace. Yuan Emperor frowned but he did not explain. He also had the same thought. He was sure that Zhou Nan had given up the cave abode on purpose. After all, he knew that Zhou Nan had entered the Immortal Ascension Tower for Bai Mu. Is it Zixin's idea for Zhou Nan to give up the cave abode? Does she really like Bai Mu that much? She did not hesitate to let Zhou Nan snatch a cave abode in the first 100 floors and give it to Bai Mu. Just as everyone was guessing, the two words Bai Mu gradually disappeared from the demon stele. After that, no one's name appeared on the 100th position of the demon stele. The cave abode on the 100th floor was actually empty. The cave abode is actually unoccupied. What's going on? Could it be that someone fought with Bai Mu for the cave abode again? In the end, both of them were injured and none of them managed to get it. It was naturally difficult for the cultivators in the outside world to imagine that Ning Fan walked out of the cave abode by himself. He did not care about the cave abode on the 100th floor and he did not plan to stay there for long. However, the others did not know about it. They only knew that whoever obtains the cave abode on the 100th floor would be rewarded with a void fragmentation pill. That was a void fragmentation pill after all. It could increase the success rate of a void fragmentation realm cultivator by 5%. To Ning Fan, who had a void inquiry stage cultivation base, it should be a great temptation, shouldn't it? What exactly happened on the 100th floor? Just as everyone's mind was filled with questions, the cave abode on the 99th floor changed owners. When the two words "Bai Mu" appeared on the 99th position of the demon stele, countless old monsters' eyes widened in shock. Bai Mu. Why is it Bai Mu again? I get it now. This Bai Mu has given up the cave abode on the 100th floor and went to the 99th floor. However, I don't understand how this Bai Mu, who only has a void inquiry stage cultivation base, has the strength to snatch the 99th floor. Could it be that Zhou Nan is helping him? At this moment, countless cultivators shifted their gazes towards the Yuan sovereign's location. The owner of the 99th floor was an old monster named Gue Yuan from the Fang Wolf Palace in the Eastern Demon Sea. This person was proficient in the broken phase technique. He was already invincible among cultivators at the same level as him. It was impossible for him to be defeated by Ning Fan, who had a void inquiry stage cultivation base. Then, could it be Zhou Nan who defeated this old monster and snatched the cave abode from him? Was it Zhou Nan who snatched the cave abode on the 99th floor and gave it to Ning Fan? As the great elder of the Origin Palace, Zhou Nan purposely sabotaged the fairness of this grand competition just to support Ning Fan? Impossible. The great elder is definitely not this kind of person. He is the host of this grand competition. Even if he enters the Immortal Ascension Tower, he will not be biased towards anyone. A void fragmentation realm cultivator of the Origin Palace defended Zhou Nan with a stern voice. That's right. Senior Zhou has always been straightforward and upright in his actions. Everyone in the entire Northern Demon Sea knows about this. He will definitely not disrupt the fairness of this grand competition just to support a Bai Mu. Some low-level cultivators began to defend Zhou Nan. The Yuan sovereign did not say anything else. He slowly rose to his feet and took out a life token from his storage pouch. He had to give the crowd an explanation so that they would not think that this grand competition was unfair. After all, he was prepared to make friends with the experts of the demon world through this dragon fishing convention. That life token belonged to Zhou Nan. The Yuan sovereign closed his eyes and transmitted a few words to the life token. After a while, he seemed to have received Zhou Nan's reply. He opened his eyes and said to the crowd in an indifferent tone. Zhou Nan did not do anything. It was Bai Mu who snatched the cave abode with his own strength. The Yuan sovereign's explanation could naturally convince most of the old monsters. However, there were also some who disagreed. Bai Mu is just a void inquiry stage cultivator. How could he defeat Gue Yuan Taishu with his own strength? Their words naturally could not escape the Yuan sovereign's spirit sense. The Yuan sovereign wore a complicated expression. Even he found it hard to believe what Zhou Nan had told him. But now, he had to inform the crowd and appease them. He is not a void inquiry stage cultivator. He is a void fragmentation realm expert. Bai Mu's cultivation base is at the first heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. What? The Yuan sovereign's words made the expressions of countless old monsters change. Void fragmentation realm. Void fragmentation realm. They did not expect that the unknown Bai Mu was actually a dignified void fragmentation realm expert. That trash who was once banished by the Light Feather clan had actually become a void fragmentation realm old monster. Bai Mu is a void fragmentation realm expert. How could this be? How is this possible? Yuan Tong's Dao heart was being repaired to a critical moment, and when he suddenly heard this news, his expression immediately turned ugly. In the first place, he did not believe that Ning Fan was a void inquiry stage cultivator. No void inquiry stage cultivator could defeat him. However, he refused to believe that Ning Fan was a void fragmentation old monster. Even though there were hundreds of void fragmentation realm experts in the demon world, which one of them was not a famous figure in the world? He was a primordial returning realm cultivator and he was only a step away from attaining the void fragmentation realm. However, this step was extremely difficult for him to cross. The void fragmentation realm was a high mountain that cultivators below the void fragmentation realm could only dream of but never reach. Insurmountable. There were tens of thousands of void refinement realm experts in the entire demon world. However, only a few hundred of them could break through to the void fragmentation realm. How is it possible that Bai Mu has a void fragmentation realm cultivation base? I don't believe it. Yuan Tong wasn't the only one who didn't believe it. Many cultivators were doubtful too. But what happened next forced them to believe it. The owner of the 98th level of the cave abode had changed, and the new occupant was Bai Mu. The owner of the 97th level of the cave abode had changed, and the new occupant was Bai Mu. The owner of the 96th level of the cave abode had changed, and the new occupant was Bai Mu. Bai Mu's name kept appearing on the demon stele, replacing the original owner of the cave abode. Then, it disappeared and reappeared again, replacing the next owner. His name kept appearing until it reached the 47th position. Only then did it temporarily stop appearing and no longer disappeared. In just a short period of time, he went from the 100th level to the 47th level and defeated all the primordial returning realm cultivators. At this moment, no one doubted that Ning Fan's cultivation base was at the first heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. Without such a strong cultivation base, who could defeat all the primordial returning realm experts in the first 100 levels? Oh! I didn't expect that there would be such a strong expert hidden in this grand competition. Is it Bai Mu? The Fox Sovereign smiled seductively. Oh! The cauldron that I'm interested in is Bai Mu. He's a void fragmentation realm expert. Hee hee. Good. Now, it's even better. The Snake Sovereign's apricot eyes flashed with a cold light. Then, she looked to her side. At her side, someone was taking out a jade slip which had Ning Fan's current appearance engraved on it. That person crushed the jade slip. Light and shadow appeared in the air, showing Ning Fan's appearance to the crowd. Bai Mu, huh? It is said that this person's bone age is less than 10,000 years. The Green Sovereign was holding a jade slip which he had just ordered his subordinates to collect. When Ning Fan consumed the appearance-changing pill, he disguised his bone age as 20,000 years. When he disguised his cultivation base as a void inquiry stage cultivator, his bone age naturally changed slightly to 6,000 years. After all, no void inquiry stage cultivator could live for 20,000 years. As soon as the Green Sovereign said that, it immediately shocked countless people. That Bai Mu's bone age is less than 10,000 years but he has already cultivated to the void fragmentation realm. How is this possible? Could it be that this person is not the rumored trash of the Light Feather clan but a genius that only appears once every 100,000 years in the demon world? Nonsense. How can someone who can cultivate to the void fragmentation realm be a trash? Perhaps this Bai Mu's previous bad reputation and weak strength are just a disguise that he used to conceal his strength and bide his time. Moreover, he might have purposely expelled him from the Light Feather clan. Is he trying to fade away from the world's sight and quietly enter the void fragmentation realm? Even though his bone age of 6,000 years was fake, Ning Fan's heaven-defying aptitude was not fake. Ning Fan's true bone age was only 1,000 years, which was even lower than 6,000 years. He had seized countless opportunities with his own hands and made the legend of a void fragmentation realm cultivator who lived for 1,000 years become a reality. It was impossible for others to know about this. If they do, they would certainly be even more shocked. The Yuan Sovereign's eyes flickered. His opinion of Ning Fan gradually changed. Originally, he thought that Ning Fan was not a good match for his daughter because of his bad reputation. Now, it seemed like Ning Fan's bad reputation and weak strength might just be a disguise. Perhaps, letting Bai Mu be Zixin's Dao companion might not be a bad choice. The Yuan sovereign thought to himself. After Yuan Tong confirmed that Ning Fan was a void fragmentation realm cultivator, he directly spurted out a mouthful of blood. His Tao heart that had recovered a little shattered again. He is a void fragmentation realm cultivator. A strong sense of defeat rose in Yuan Tong's heart. If it wasn't for his master, he would not be qualified to be Ning Fan's enemy at all. Tong heir, don't destroy your own Tao heart. Remember, Bai Mu isn't that great. Even if he is a void fragmentation realm cultivator and surpasses you in every aspect, there is one thing that you can't compare to. Remember. Your master is the strongest demon sovereign of this generation. You are no match for him, but I can help you eradicate him. The ape sovereign's eyes flashed with a hint of killing intent. He kept belittling Ning Fan not because he looked down on him but because he wanted to rebuild Yuan Tong's confidence through this method. The abilities of the ape hall were all based on battle intent. If one loses his confidence, he would lose the courage to challenge others. Then, where would his battle intent come from? Self-destruction of the great Tao. Yuan Tong was the ape sovereign's favorite disciple. He was arrogant, domineering and considered himself to be extraordinary. He was the most suitable candidate to cultivate the cultivation methods of the ape hall. If Yuan Tong had never met Ning Fan, if Yuan Tong could continue to fight and win in a domineering manner, his achievements in this life would definitely not be lower than those of the previous ape sovereigns. No matter what, I will help you take his life. As long as he is alive, your Tao heart won't be able to recover. His shadow will eventually be left behind. Bai Mu, huh? Humph. No matter who attacked first, as long as you hurt my disciple, you deserve to die. The Ape King revealed a domineering look. Now, he only wanted to do one thing and that was to wait for the end of the grand competition. When Ning Fan came out, he would kill him. The Ape Emperor closed his eyes and stopped paying attention to the demon steel. In his opinion, even if Ning Fan's cultivation base was at the first heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm, he would still have to stop at the 47th level. Below them, the ones guarding the cave residences were all void fragmentation realm experts. He was only at the first heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. It was the lowest level among the 9 heavenly layers of the void fragmentation realm. Logically speaking, Ning Fan would probably not continue to challenge other void fragmentation realm cultivators without knowing what was good for him. There's no need to watch. This kid will definitely stop at the 47th floor. As soon as the Ape King finished speaking, he suddenly opened his eyes in disbelief. On the demon steel, the 2 words, Bai Mu, gradually faded and eventually disappeared. A moment later, on the 46th floor, the name of the Northern Demon Sea's golden photon was replaced by Bai Mu's name. In just a short moment, Ning Fan had defeated Jin Guangdian, who was also at the first heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm, and snatched the cave dwelling away. How is this possible? The 45th floor, 44th floor, 43rd floor. All the way to the 30th floor. Each of the first heavenly layer void fragmentation realm old monsters was no match for Ning Fan. All of them were instantly defeated. On the other hand, Ning Fan's name kept changing positions, rising all the way to the 30th place on the demon steel. Senior Whitewood is invincible in the demolishing level. Countless low-level cultivators blurted. On the 30th level of the Immortal Ascension Pagoda, Ning Fan kept Emperor Xia's sword and stepped into the 30th floor of the abode. He was not in a hurry to comprehend the mysteries on this floor. Instead, he consumed some pills and adjusted his breathing, trying to recover some of his magic power. To him, defeating cultivators at the primordial returning realm consecutively was a piece of cake. It was also not difficult for him to defeat cultivators at the first heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. However, it would consume a lot of his magic power. With Emperor Xia's sword in his hand, Ning Fan only needed to activate 30% of the sword light and he would be able to scare away any of the old monsters who were guarding the cave dwelling. From the 30th floor and below, there were at least second heavenly layer void fragmentation realm old monsters guarding the place. Thus, they were not to be underestimated. If Ning Fan wants to go all the way down, he must not be careless. He must first adjust his breathing. He didn't know that the outside world was in chaos because of him. He also didn't know that along the way, the old monsters on each floor were sighing in despair. They had suffered a great blow. From the 500th floor all the way to the 31st floor, those old monsters who had their abode taken away eventually ran back and quietly occupied their abode after seeing that Ning Fan did not have the intention to occupy their abode for a long time. However, they would never be able to forget the fact that they were defeated by Ning Fan for the rest of their lives. Especially those first heavenly layer void fragmentation realm old monsters who thought highly of themselves. After being defeated by Ning Fan with a single sword strike, it was inevitable that a shadow would be cast in their hearts. They were all at the first heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm, but they were actually so much weaker than Ning Fan. I can't compete with him. I can't compete with him. Who said that Bai Mu is trash? He clearly didn't use his full strength in that sword strike. If he used his full strength, I'm afraid even the two old monsters of the Shattering Realm wouldn't be able to withstand it. On the 46th floor of the Immortal Ascension Tower, Jin Guangzi returned to his cave dwelling. He adjusted his breathing while sighing. There were quite a number of people who were sighing like him. Zhou Nan followed behind Ning Fan. His eyes were filled with astonishment. When Ning Fan held Emperor Xia's sword in his hand, even a dignified fourth heavenly layer void fragmentation realm like him felt a little threatened by the sword light. This young man's strength seems to be above my expectation. Perhaps he won't stop at the 30th floor. Just as Zhou Nan was thinking about this, he saw that Ning Fan had already finished adjusting his breathing. He had finished his comprehension in the cave dwelling and was heading towards the 29th floor. As expected, he still wants to challenge the two old monsters of the Shattering Realm. Zhou Nan's eyes lit up. The Void Fragmentation Realm had a strict hierarchy. Other than a few heaven-defying experts, there were very few people who could surpass their cultivation base and win. Even an unrivaled cultivator at the first heavenly layer of the Void Fragmentation Realm would find it hard to defeat an ordinary two old monsters of the Shattering Realm. Zhou Nan really wanted to see whether Ning Fan could continue to sweep through the Immortal Ascension Tower with his first heavenly layer Void Fragmentation Realm cultivation base. Chapter 643. Immortal Ascension Pagoda, Level 35. Yun Yomu had a complicated expression on his face. The moment he saw Emperor Xia's sword, he finally understood why he felt such a sense of familiarity towards Bai Mu. That's not Bai Mu, it's Ning Fan. Appearances could be faked, aura could be altered, cultivation could be fabricated, but there was no way there could be a second sword that looked exactly like Emperor Xia's sword. Ning Fan had used Emperor Xia's sword to kill King Lanling. In the battle against Yun Xiaoxiang, Ning Fan had also used Emperor Xia's sword. Yun Yomu had seen this sword at close range twice, so it was impossible for him to mistake it for someone else. This sword still gave him a lingering fear. Bai Mu is Ning Fan. Ning Fan is Bai Mu. The Rain Sovereign, Ning Fan, has actually sneaked into the demon world. Is he one of the helpers that the young lord of the godly void pavilion found? If it's possible, I really want to tell Hidaozi that this person can't be underestimated. Unfortunately, I can't say it. I can't tell anyone about his identity. Yun Yomu smiled bitterly. He could not help but recall Ning Fan's meaningful smile when he came to this cave dwelling. With Yun Yomu's shrewdness, he could naturally tell that Ning Fan had purposely revealed his identity to him. Ning Fan was certain that Yun Yomu would not dare to reveal his identity. After all, Ning Fan had already planted a demon seal on Yun Yomu. He could control his life and death at will. If Ning Fan encounters danger and dies, Yun Yomu who has been planted with a demon seal would also not be able to escape death. If Yin Yomu enraged Ning Fan would only need a single thought to take his life. Even Imperial Father is no match for him. I'm afraid he Shirshio is no match for him. Immortal Ascension Pagoda, 29th level. The one guarding this level of the cave abode was the patriarch of the End Goat clan, End Monarch. This person was wearing a sheepskin cloak and had 2 curved horns on his head. His white beard reached the ground and his eyes were tightly shut. He was currently adjusting his breathing inside the cave. His cultivation base was at the 2nd heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. Moreover, he was proficient in 2 great void fragmentation realm abilities, incarnation technique and soul extraction. His Mo Yang incarnation was extremely difficult to deal with, it had the strange ability to absorb other people's demonic power. His mastery of the soul extraction art was not high, but it could still increase his demonic power by almost 10%. If it was a second shattering cultivator who did not know his background, he would usually suck out all of his demon power and easily defeat him. This person was not a weakling among those at the 2nd heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. There's less than 8 hours left before the end of the grand competition. What a pity, this old man's strength isn't enough to occupy the first 20 levels of the abode. It seems like I'm not fated to obtain the essence clear pill. While sighing, the last heaven lord suddenly opened his eyes, revealing a sharp gaze. Then, he snorted in disdain. Humph, who is this kid? With just a cultivation base at the 1st heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm, you want to seize my abode? Other than a handful of one-demolishing cultivators in the demon realm, no one has ever dared to look down on me like this. Last Heaven Monarch's expression was gloomy, and his body suddenly turned into a white light that flew out of the cave and appeared in the vast desert outside the cave. His old and turbid eyes stared straight ahead. In that direction, a white-robed young man was walking over step by step. Every step he took was gathering his aura. Lightwing Clan, by Mu. The youth reported his name indifferently, not bothering to waste any time. He could tell with a single glance that the last heaven monarch before him was an old monster that thought highly of himself and would absolutely not give up his abode so easily, so he could only seize it in battle. Last heaven monarch of the last Yang clan. The last heaven monarch also did not have the intention to waste any time. After reporting his name, the last heaven monarch suddenly shook his body and transformed into the incarnation of Mo Yang. His body grew slightly taller and his robes disappeared. Gray fur like that of a demon beast grew on his body. An incarnation technique, huh? Ning Fan's eyes turned slightly cold. With just a glance, he could tell that this incarnation of Mo Yang was a little strange. However, he could not tell what it was exactly. I'll have to be careful when dealing with him. Ning Fan's heart was already filled with alertness, paying attention to every change in his surroundings. Soul extraction. The last heaven monarch clawed at the ground with one of his claws, extracting the earth soul from the ground and swallowing it. After swallowing the earth soul, his demon power immediately increased by more than 10% and his chi became much stronger. Void technique, goat devouring. The last heaven monarch's eyes suddenly turned sharp. He performed a hand seal with all 10 of his fingers and a gigantic purple-horned goat shadow appeared behind him. All of a sudden, the ground of the entire abode began to shake in a strange manner. Countless wriggling white threads suddenly pierced through the ground and entangled Ning Fan. Those white threads moved extremely fast and could even teleport. Ning Fan hurriedly escaped from his original spot. When he appeared in the sky, his hands and feet were still entangled by some white threads. At the moment when his hands and feet were entangled by the white threads, Ning Fan immediately felt that his magic power began to flow away rapidly. It was all absorbed by the white threads. Devour. 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 The last heaven monarch's eyes revealed a rather proud look. Any cultivator who was entangled by his Mo Yang thread would find it hard to escape. In the end, all of their demon power would be sucked dry. This thread was not afraid of being slashed by ordinary blades and swords or being burned by ordinary spiritual flames. Ordinary methods would not be able to break this thread. Unfortunately, the last heaven monarch did not know that Ning Fan had as many extraordinary methods as he wanted. The secret technique of the Mo Yang clan. Goat devouring technique, huh? Zhou Nan, who had quietly followed Ning Fan, let out a soft sigh. When he was young, he had once fought against the Mo Yang clan and suffered a lot from this technique. If Bai Mu can't handle this technique, I'll lend him a hand. Just as this thought flashed across Zhou Nan's mind, his eyes suddenly lit up at the next moment. This is... what a strong flame! It can even burn the Mo Yang thread. All of a sudden, Ning Fan, who was entangled by the white threads, was engulfed in black devil flames that soared into the sky. The grade of this black devil flame had clearly reached the high grade 7th grade. It was a flame that was formed by the fusion of 24 types of heavenly cold flames and earth flames. Moreover, it had also been infused with the cold chi of other spiritual flames. The grade of this flame was the best in the rain world. Even though it might not be the best in the demon world, it could still be ranked among the top 3 in the demon world. With Zhou Nan's eyesight, he could naturally tell that this flame was not any flame that he knew. If that was the case, this flame must be a special flame that Ning Fan cultivated using a special cultivation method. Burn! Ning Fan only uttered a single word and the black flame immediately spread out from his body. It burned tens of thousands of li above the desert. Countless Mo Yang threads were burned into ashes in the black flame. With Ning Fan's current cultivation base, ordinary void fragmentation realm cultivators were not his match at all when he uses the yin-yang flame. If Ning Fan's cultivation base is a few more levels higher, attaining the 4th heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm, he could directly use this flame to fight against the Rain Sovereign. What a strong flame! No wonder this young man dared to come and seize my abode even though he is just at the 1st heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. It turns out that he has something to rely on. However, I also have a way to break your flame. Fire-devouring gourd, keep. Without saying a word, the last heaven lord took out a fiery red gourd. As soon as the gourd was taken out, it immediately absorbed the raging flames. The sea of flames that stretched across the entire heavenly dwelling gradually began to weaken. Ning Fan glanced at the fire-devouring gourd. It was a mid-grade immortal void realm magic treasure which came with the ability to restrain fire. Using the devil flame at the 1st heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm was no match for the might of this gourd. His eyes gradually turned cold. Black chi swirled around his body. He took a step forward and transformed into his black robes. Before his spirit sense entered the 2nd heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm, the increase in his cultivation base when he transformed into his incarnation was not as great as before, but it was not small either. He once again pointed his finger at the void and shattered it. Then, he made a grabbing motion with his 5 fingers and pulled out the void soul, swallowing it. All of a sudden, his 1st heavenly layer void fragmentation realm aura force rose rapidly, breaking through the 2nd heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm and advancing towards the peak of the 2nd heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. He was still only 1 step away from attaining the 3rd heavenly layer. I still can't use these 2 divine abilities to break through to the 3rd demolishing level. But it's enough to deal with this guy. Burn! Ning Fan's current chi was much stronger than Mo Tianjuan's. He changed his hand seal, and the demonic fire that was sucked into the gourd immediately went berserk, trying its best to burn the fire-swallowing gourd. As the spellcaster's aura grew stronger, the power of the demonic flames naturally increased as well. After a breath of time, the fire-swallowing gourd was like a piece of red-hot iron, its red glow piercing the eyes. 2 breaths later, the fire-swallowing gourd began to sizzle, but there was no sound of explosion. 3 breaths. The fire-devouring gourd suddenly cracked and shattered. The moment the gourd shattered, the black flames transformed into a fire dragon and flew out of the gourd's cracks, burning the remains of the gourd to ashes. Gourd, my gourd. Last Heaven Monarch's expression changed greatly. He did not expect that Ning Fan was also proficient in the soul extraction technique and incarnation transformation technique. He also did not expect that Ning Fan could actually extract the void soul, and his attainment in this technique was even higher than his. He did not have time to think further because as Ning Fan pointed at him, the 9 black fire dragons roared and attacked him. Fellow Taoist, please stop. I admit defeat. How could Last Heaven Monarch still care about the gourd? He directly used the earth escape technique and fled without a trace, not daring to face the attacks of the 9 fire dragons head-on. Even though he fled in a hurry, he still suffered quite a lot of burns. Otherwise, Last Heaven Monarch would have at least been severely injured by the yin-yang flame that Ning Fan displayed with all his might. Seeing that Last Heaven Monarch had fled, Ning Fan did not chase after him. He withdrew the devil flames and stepped into the cave dwelling, using the primitive Emperor Jade to observe the Tao comprehension inside. There were already a total of 471 Tao marks of life and death on his primordial spirit. As his Tao comprehension became deeper and deeper, ordinary Tao comprehension would not be able to increase the number of Tao marks. Fortunately, the design of the Immortal Ascension Tower had always made the Tao comprehension deeper and deeper with each floor. In this way, the number of Tao marks in the 500 floors of the Immortal Ascension Tower would certainly exceed 500. He actually won in such a short time. Zhou Nan's eyes were filled with astonishment. In his opinion, Ning Fan, who had displayed the soul extraction and incarnation technique, might not necessarily lose even if he were to fight against the 3 old monsters of the body-shattering realm. Perhaps Ning Fan might be able to enter the top 20 floors of the Immortal Ascension realm. If I am only at the 3 body-shattering realm, I might not be a match for this young man. Based on this young man might really be able to enter the top 20 floors. After observing the Tao comprehension, Ning Fan did not stay for long. In a flash, he flew towards the 28th floor. Using the yin-yang flame to attack the enemy would consume a lot of magic power. It would be fine if it was just a single battle. However, it was not suitable to continue using the yin-yang flame in a situation like this. Ning Fan patted his storage pouch and took out Emperor Xia's sword. The body of the sword was cold and the faint heartbeats of the 5 people could be heard. Those were the heartbeats of the 5 sword spirits. They were hiding inside the sword, trying to help Ning Fan control the sword. Come out. The current me can control this sword with ease. From today onwards, you don't need to stay inside the body of the sword. Ning Fan said with a hint of heartache. He knew that with the cultivation base of the 5 sword spirits, it was actually very difficult to control this sword. It was a hard and tiring job. In the past, he had no choice but to let the 5 little girls do the hard work. Now that Ning Fan had fully unleashed his combat power and cultivated the sword intent of Emperor Xia's sword, he could control the sword with ease even without the help of the 5 sword spirits. If that was the case, there was no need to trouble the 5 sword spirits. Wah! Little Fan Fan doesn't want Jingjing anymore. Jingjing is so sad. The first sword spirit left the body of the sword in tears and ran back into the sword pouch. Wah! Little Fan Fan doesn't want Momo anymore. Momo is even sadder than Jingjing. The second sword spirit ran back into the sword pouch in tears. Wah! Little Fan Fan doesn't want Shui Shui anymore. Shui Shui doesn't want to be with you anymore. Humph! The third sword spirit ran back in tears. Wah! Little Fan Fan doesn't want Hua Hua anymore. Hua Hua will never do this and that with you again. The fourth sword spirit ran back into the sword pouch while babbling nonsense. It seemed like she had never done anything with Ning Fan. Wah, wah, wah. The little stutterer couldn't finish his sentence. He was so anxious that he started crying. Inside the sword pouch, the cries of the 5 little girls could not stop coming out. Ning Fan stopped his movement light and rubbed his head, feeling a slight headache. He just wanted the 5 sword spirits to have a rest. They seemed to have misunderstood that he was going to abandon them. Do these 5 little girls have fragile hearts? How could they be so fragile? I won't abandon you. Ning Fan explained helplessly. Children always needed to be coaxed. Really? The crying stopped and the little girls became lively again. Really? Can you all sleep for a while? Don't make a fuss. Ning Fan gave an order and the 5 chatterboxes immediately shut up obediently and went to sleep. After comforting the 5 little girls, Ning Fan continued to fly to the 28th floor. The person guarding the 28th floor was an old monk wearing a monastic robe. He was a Zen cultivator and there were many types of Zen cultivators. Some of them tempered their physical bodies and their strength was comparable to gods and devils. Some of them tempered their divine abilities and their techniques were sumaru, breaking all laws. Of course, there were also people like this person who cultivated the negative karma of the sword. There was a blood-red flying sword on the demon monk's lap. He closed his eyes and meditated. His heart was as calm as still water. However, at a certain moment, he suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with blood-red light and he praised coldly with a hoarse voice. What a heavy baleful chi! What a strong sword intent! What a powerful devil lord! The demon monk suddenly rose to his feet and put his palms together. He held the blood-red sword in his other hand and walked out of the cave. Far away from the cave, there was also a young man in black robes. He was holding a golden sword in his hand and was walking towards him step by step. The baleful chi in the young man's eyes was so strong that it could shake heaven and earth. The sword intent around the young man was so strong that it could shake people's hearts. Every step of the young man was brewing sword force. Every step he took could create golden ripples on the ground. Fellow Taoist, are you here to rob my cave? The demon monk asked coldly. Yes. The black-robed Ning Fan was a man of few words. The baleful chi in his eyes slightly dispersed and was replaced by an extremely pure golden sword light. If you defeat me, the cave will be yours. The demon monk felt a heavy pressure from Ning Fan's body. Even though he was a second heavenly layer void fragmentation realm cultivator, Ning Fan's current chi was much stronger than his. He was just a tiny bit away from attaining the 3rd heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. As you wish. Ning Fan's footsteps gradually slowed down. However, his sword force was getting stronger and stronger. He was trying to put himself in Yin Tianjue's shoes. In his mind, the endless sword mantra of the myriad sword style was reverberating repeatedly. The myriad sword style was a void fragmentation realm sword technique. It was one of the 3 great sword techniques of Yin Tianjue. Ning Fan's cultivation base was already slowly increasing. It was enough for him to completely unleash the full power of the myriad sword style. With Emperor Xia's sword and its sword intent, coupled with the myriad sword style, he was confident that he could crush all of the 2 groups of cultivators with a single sword attack. I can't wait any longer. When his sword force reaches its peak, I will definitely lose. Blood Lotus style. The demon monk suddenly raised his sword. Blood-red sword intent soared around his body and a gigantic shadow of a blood-red bodhisattva appeared behind him. The bodhisattva stepped on a blood-red lotus. As the demon monk's sword moved, the blood-red lotus petals began to wither. Every time a lotus petal withered, the demon monk's sword light would become slightly stronger. At this moment, the demon monk's flying sword was glowing with dark red blood light. It even emitted a hint of the smell of blood and the fragrance of the lotus. The entire heavenly dwelling suddenly trembled violently as if it was going to collapse at any moment. The demon monk abruptly raised his blood sword. The sword suddenly turned into hundreds of millions of rays of blood light and exploded from the center like a blooming lotus. Hundreds of millions of rays of sharp sword light slashed down, as if they wanted to cut Ning Fan into minced meat. Ning Fan sighed. With this demon monk's obstruction, he could not complete the 9 steps in the end. He could not raise his sword force to its peak. Even so, this sword style was enough to defeat this demon monk with a single sword attack. Sword light flashed in Ning Fan's eyes. At this moment, his entire body seemed to have turned into an immortal sword. He raised his hand and pointed it at the sky with Emperor Xia's sword. Then, the sword slashed down. The entire world seemed to have become still as if the power of this sword was the only thing left. In an instant, the sky of the heavenly dwelling was dyed pure gold by the sword light. The golden sky was suddenly raining, and countless golden sword lights fell from the sky. 1 ray, 10 rays, 100 rays, 1,000 rays. 10,000 rays, 100,000 rays, 1,000,000 rays, 10,000,000 rays. In the end, the 10 million rays of sword light were divided into 100 million rays, turning into a rain of 1 billion rays. The reason why Ning Fan put himself in Yun Tianjue's shoes was to comprehend the essence of the myriad sword art. Then, he abandoned Yun Tianjue's sword style and only kept the essence, turning it into his own myriad sword style. As a matter of fact, the sword styles of Yun Tianjue's sword devil inheritance should be different depending on who uses them. In the past, Ning Fan was just constantly imitating Yun Tianjue's sword style. However, it was not Ning Fan's own sword style after all. At this moment, Ning Fan could be considered to have truly displayed the myriad sword style that belonged to him. As the sword fell, the entire world turned silent. The blood lotus sword light was drowned by the golden sword rain and shattered. The golden sword rain fell on the ground, turning the entire heavenly dwelling into ruins. Only the abode was not destroyed. The old demon monk seemed to be able to hear his own heartbeat. His eyes were filled with astonishment. When the overwhelming golden sword rain slashed down, he could only activate the blood lotus sword light to protect his body. The feeling that the sword rain that filled the sky gave him was too dangerous. Chi! 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 The blood lotus sword light was destroyed one after another. Countless golden sword rain penetrated the body of the old demon monk, causing him to suffer serious injuries. Ning Fan still showed mercy. Otherwise, even if his sword force was not at its peak, it would be enough to kill the old demon monk. The old demon monk looked at Ning Fan in shock. Then, he let out a bitter smile and fainted on the ground. Ning Fan did not look at the old demon monk again. He held his sword and entered the abode. After tens of breaths, he flew towards the 27th floor. 1 billion golden sword rain followed behind him. When he entered the 27th floor, it almost scared the 2 old monsters who were guarding the abode to death. What a strong sword light! I'm not his match. However, running away without fighting is not my principle. I can't avoid this battle. The 2 old monsters was holding a treasured fan magic treasure. He raised his hand and raised it towards the sky. Then, he swung it at Ning Fan's head. There was a faint sound of mountains and rivers crashing down. This fan was called the Mountain and River Fan. It was considered a decent magic treasure. However, it could not withstand the 1 billion sword rain. When Ning Fan defeated the old demon monk, his sword force had reached its peak. He waved his golden sword. Without even looking at the treasured fan, he raised his hand and swung his sword. One slash. 10,000 swords fell. The sword rain was like a waterfall. The treasured fan was no match for the sword rain. It instantly shattered and its power was destroyed. As for the 2 old monsters, he was directly swept to the ground by Ning Fan's sword. He knelt on one knee and his body was covered in blood. However, he was still alive. When the sword rain fell, the ground in the heavenly dwelling was still collapsing. Countless mountains were flattened by the sword light. The two old monsters sighed. They stood up and cupped their fists at Ning Fan. "Fellow Taoist, thank you for showing mercy." Then, without any hesitation, he turned into a ray of light and flew towards the next floor. He no longer dared to compete with Ning Fan for the abode. Even a cultivator at the third break realm might not be able to withstand a single sword attack from this person. "I'm not his match." Sigh, the 26th floor, the 25th floor, the 24th floor, the 23rd floor. Along the way, Ning Fan defeated all the cultivators at the second break realm with a single sword attack. Every time he defeated someone, his sword force would become slightly stronger. No one at the second break realm could withstand a single sword attack from him. He stepped on the 1 billion sword rain and finally walked out of the abode on the 23rd floor, flying towards the 22nd floor. The one guarding the 22nd floor was a cultivator at the third heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. Ning Fan knew where the bottom line of his strength was. The Battle of Shattering 3 would be a bitter struggle. Outside the Immortal Ascension Pagoda, when Bai Mu's name appeared on the 23rd position on the demon tablet, countless cultivators were dumbfounded. All the cultivators in the Immortal Ascension Tower had been defeated by him alone. As for Ning Fan, he was still heading towards the 22nd level, attempting to challenge the cultivators of the Broken 3 realm. Is old ancestor Bai Mu really at the first heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm? Countless low-level cultivators addressed Bai Mu as patriarch. They were already in awe of the two words white wood. The Yuan Emperor and the other demon emperors locked their divine wills on the demon steel. They wanted to know if the 22nd level of the cave abode would also change its owner. Under normal circumstances, a cultivator at the first heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm would not be able to fight against a cultivator at the third heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. However, Ning Fan's strength was enough to defeat a cultivator at the second heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. The eyes of the Ape Emperor and the hundreds of experts he brought with him were gloomy. What's going on? Tan Zixin arrived at the North Heaven City at the right time and arrived at the bottom of the Immortal Ascension Tower. She took a glance at the demon steel and was instantly stunned on the spot. The 23rd floor. Bai Mu is actually so powerful that he could obtain the cave abode of this floor. How? How is this possible? Isn't he a void inquiry stage cultivator? How could he defeat a void fragmentation realm cultivator? This lady doesn't seem to know that old ancestor Bai Mu's cultivation base isn't at the void inquiry stage but the first heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. Moreover, his strength is extremely powerful, enough to defeat a group of cultivators of the Broken 2 realm. TSK. From today onwards, old ancestor Bai Mu's name will surely resound in the demon world. A low-level cultivator who did not know Tan Zixin's identity explained to her. What? Bai Mu is actually a void fragmentation realm cultivator. Tan Zixin was extremely shocked at first. Then, she revealed an expression of joy. If Ning Fan was really a void fragmentation realm cultivator and if he really had the ability to harmonize yin and yang, not only would Elder's injuries be completely healed, he would also have a higher chance of becoming an immortal. I wonder how Uncle Zhou's investigation is going. I hope Bai Mu is the person I'm looking for. I hope everything goes as I wish. I really don't want Elder to die. Chapter 644. Ning Fan knew where his bottom line was. He had defeated Yun Xiaoxiang by relying on the might of Lei Zhenzi. He had defeated the Vine Sovereign, the Rain Sovereign, the Moksha Sovereign, the Cloud Lion, and the Sect Master of the 3 realms by relying on external forces. His true strength was enough to crush a second demolisher, but would be limited to a third demolisher. Ning Fan had the strength to fight against a cultivator of the third break realm, but it was hard to tell who would win. If I can win, then I will fight with my own strength. If I can't win, then even if I have to borrow the power of external objects, I will seize all the caves here. Ning Fan only cared about the result. He did not care about the process. He stepped on the rain of 1 billion swords and flew toward the 22nd floor. The 22nd level of the grotto heaven was a vast ocean, and the grotto heaven was built on the seabed. The one guarding the 22nd floor was an old man who cultivated the demonic blood of the black tortoise. People called him Old Monster Dong Lin. This was a fat old man with a rather comical appearance. He had suffered some injuries in the process of fighting for the first 20 levels of the cave. He was a demon cultivator at the third heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. The combat power of his black tortoise demon blood was not to be underestimated. He was recuperating when he suddenly opened his eyes, revealing an indifferent expression. Another resident snatcher. Old Monster Dong Lin stood up slowly with a slightly solemn expression. He walked out of the cave and parted the sea. He stood on the surface of the sea and raised his head to look at the sky. His expression became even more serious. In the sky, a black-robed young man stepped on 1 billion sword lights, and like an unstoppable sharp sword, he rushed over. With Old Monster Donglin's insight, he could tell with a single glance that this young man couldn't be underestimated. The young man's sword momentum was too strong. That sword aura was the undefeatable aura that he had accumulated after defeating all the cultivators along the way. This person's cultivation base is clearly only at the first heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. However, by relying on the two great abilities of incarnation and soul extraction, his aura is infinitely close to the third heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. This man is stepping on 1 billion sword lights. If all of them were to attack at the same time, even I would have a hard time dealing with them. This kid's strength is comparable to a 3-breaking realm cultivator. If this old man wasn't injured, I would have a 50-50 chance of winning against him. But now, my chance of winning is less than 30%. Even if the odds aren't high, I won't give up my abode so easily. The strong had their own pride and arrogance. Old Monster Dong Lin didn't have a striking appearance, but he wasn't one to admit defeat. I am Dong Lin. Who are you? Old Monster Dong Lin asked in a deep voice. Light Wing Clan, by Mu. Ning Fan suddenly retracted his sword light in the sky and swept his gaze across Old Monster Dong Lin who was standing on the surface of the sea. This gaze was as sharp as a sword. If an ordinary cultivator was pierced by this gaze, they would definitely feel a sharp pain in their sea of consciousness. However, what kind of person was Old Monster Dong Lin? He naturally would not be afraid of Ning Fan's gaze. Fellow Taoist Bai, right? Let's see if I'm stronger, or if you're stronger. Quick! Old Monster Dong Lin didn't say a word and directly flicked his sleeve, releasing a blue ray of light. It was a meter-long blue ruler treasure known as the Surging Wave Ruler. It was Old Monster Dong Lin's natal magic treasure and also a primordial divine weapon. As soon as the ruler appeared, it immediately caused huge waves to surge above the entire sea. As soon as the ruler soared into the sky, it immediately split into 1 million ruler shadows and attacked Ning Fan. This ruler shadow was really powerful. Even an ordinary cultivator at the third heaven destruction realm would be hit by the ruler if they were not careful and their skin and flesh would be torn apart. Even Ning Fan, who had a physical body at the peak reckless devil realm which was comparable to the first heavenly layer of the nirvana realm, did not dare to take this ruler head-on. Without saying a word, Ning Fan pointed his long sword forward and the 1 billion sword rain immediately slashed at the 1 million ruler shadows. Even though the sword rain was numerous and the ruler shadows were few, this exchange of blows was actually a draw. The 1 billion sword rain was pushed back while the 1 million ruler shadows were also pushed back. Old Monster Dong Lin did not say much, as if he had already expected such a situation. He changed his hand seal and the 1 million ruler shadows merged into one, condensing into the shadow of a 10,000 zhang large icy black tortoise. The black tortoise opened its mouth and sucked all the surging sword light into its mouth. The myriad sword style isn't that easy to break. Explode. Ning Fan formed a hand seal with one hand and changed his hand seal. The golden sword light that was swallowed into the black tortoise's mouth exploded one after another. As soon as the sword light exploded, the black tortoise immediately showed a painful expression. It let out a miserable shriek and its shadow gradually turned faint. In the end, it turned back into the ruler and fell from the sky. Its power was slightly reduced. Old Monster Dong Lin's eyes darkened. He kept the ruler and took out 49 banners which were glowing with cold light. He then tossed all of them into the sky. At the moment when all the banners were tossed out, Old Monster Dong Lin suddenly formed a hand seal and said with a respectful tone, "Summon the ancestral spirit." As soon as he finished speaking, the 49 banners shot out rays of cold light at the same time. They gathered at one spot and condensed into the shadow of a black-armored giant. The giant did not have a nose or mouth. He only had a single eye on his face. His body was fat and his chi was comparable to a third heaven destruction realm cultivator. However, the aura force of his bloodline was extremely terrifying. He was the ancestor of Old Monster Dong Lin. He had passed away a long time ago, but he had sealed his abilities in the 49 banners and bestowed them to his descendants. With Old Monster Dong Lin's cultivation base, he could not summon the ancestral spirit which was stronger than his cultivation base to attack the enemy. However, the aura force of the ancestral spirit was the royal bloodline of a black tortoise king. With just the aura force of the royal bloodline, it could scare away ordinary demon cultivators. The shadow of the giant did not make a move. He just stood with his hands behind his back and looked at Ning Fan with disdain. All of a sudden, a cold light flashed across his eyes. A wave of monstrous aura force of the royal bloodline pressed down on the entire heavenly dwelling. Old Monster Dong Lin's eyes were filled with respect. Cultivating the royal bloodline was his life's pursuit. However, he knew that he probably could not achieve it. This Bai Mu isn't weak. However, he might not be able to withstand the suppression of the royal bloodline. He will probably suffer some injuries. Old Monster Dong Lin was thinking. At the next moment, he saw a scene that made him feel unbelievable. Ning Fan, who was being suppressed by the royal bloodline, suddenly raised his head. His left eye flashed with an evil purplish-black light and met the eyes of the black-armored giant. At the moment when their eyes met, the only eye of the black-armored giant suddenly revealed a look of extreme respect. With just a gaze, the aura force of the royal bloodline of the giant, the Black Tortoise King, collapsed and went out of control. The giant's shadow shattered into pieces. The power of the 49 banners was also greatly damaged and fell from the sky. The giant was completely defeated in the battle of aura force. How is this possible? This Bai Mu actually broke the aura force of the royal bloodline of the Black Tortoise King. It was impossible for Old Monster Dong Lin to know that Ning Fan possessed the ancestral grade Fu Li bloodline. Why would he be afraid of the royal bloodline of the Black Tortoise King? If it wasn't because revealing his ancestral grade bloodline would bring him great trouble, Ning Fan could easily suppress Old Monster Dong Lin with the might of his ancestral grade bloodline. It seems like I have to display the innate ability of the Black Tortoise race to have a chance of winning. Cold Ice Domain. Old Monster Dong Lin suddenly made a mysterious hand seal and his face turned pale. His bloodline of the Black Tortoise was not pure. Thus, it was extremely difficult for him to display his innate ability. However, he firmly believed that if he had a 30% chance of winning against Ning Fan, it would definitely be because of this ability. Zzz, the entire heavenly dwelling suddenly became chilly. The ocean, which was tens of thousands of li beneath Old Monster Dong Lin's feet, was completely frozen in an instant. Even the waves were frozen. Countless barriers seemed to have formed in all directions. Within these barriers, Old Monster Dong Lin's chi gradually increased by nearly 20%. On the other hand, Ning Fan's chi was greatly suppressed. It fell from the peak of the second break realm to the ordinary second break realm. Freeze! Old Monster Dong Lin made the last hand seal and suddenly shouted. At this moment, the entire space of the 22nd floor had become his domain. At this moment, all the cold chi in this place had to listen to his command. Countless cold chi gathered towards Ning Fan. His body began to stiffen and his blood was about to freeze. At this moment, his body was suddenly engulfed in black devil flames, burning all the cold ice away. He kept Emperor Xia's sword and a gigantic diagram of black flames appeared beneath his feet. At the moment when the diagram of black flames appeared, the cold chi in the entire heavenly dwelling was almost swept away. The layers of ice barriers began to melt and the frozen ocean also began to melt. Void ignition. Ning Fan raised his finger and pointed at Old Monster Dong Lin from afar. His finger was covered in flames. At the moment when he pointed, millions of black fiery butterflies rose from the diagram of flames and gathered above Ning Fan's head, forming a gigantic fiery butterfly whose wings covered the entire sky. Ning Fan had already broken through to the void fragmentation realm. The power of the void ignition butterfly flame technique was naturally much stronger than before. The moment the fire butterfly appeared, fear appeared on Old Monster Dong Lin's face for the first time. This is a great divine ability that is infinitely close to a celestial art. Bai Mu had actually learned such a powerful divine ability. Not good, black tortoise armor, protect me. The fat old monster Dong Lin's body swayed and transformed into a huge black tortoise. The moment it transformed into its demon form, the black tortoise shrunk its entire body into its turtle shell. At this moment, the giant butterfly flapped its wings. First flap, second flap, third flap, fourth flap, fifth flap. The giant butterfly flapped its wings 5 times in a row, but it was still not Ning Fan's current limit. The sixth and seventh flaps. Ning Fan's face began to turn pale but his eyes were filled with monstrous battle intent. The seventh fan was his current limit. Once he unleashed this technique, no one would be able to withstand it other than an invincible shatterer. The defense of the tortoise shell of the Black Tortoise clan was extremely heaven-defying. Even though Old Monster Dong Lin had already determined that he was no match for Ning Fan, he did not think that Ning Fan could break his defense. However, after the fire butterfly flapped its wings for the 7th time, the sky was filled with black flames and smoke, causing Old Monster Dong Lin to lose all of his confidence. The tortoise shell that had heaven-defying defense turned into ashes bit by bit in the butterfly flames at a speed visible to the naked eye. Not long after, the entire tortoise shell was incinerated by the butterfly flames. The moment he lost his tortoise shell, Old Monster Dong Lin returned to his human form. His face was pale as he stared at the butterfly flames that filled the sky. He knew that he had been completely defeated. Moreover, if Ning Fan does not stop, he, the dignified Old Monster Dong Lin, would directly die under the butterfly flames. I admit defeat. Please show mercy, fellow Taoist Bai. Old Monster Dong Lin gritted his teeth and cupped his fists, no longer defending himself against the butterfly flames. Even his strongest defense could not withstand the butterfly flames. No matter how hard he tried to defend himself, it would be futile. Disperse. Ning Fan withdrew his finger and dispersed the butterfly flames that filled the sky. The giant butterfly above his head did not immediately disperse. It was still staring at Old Monster Dong Lin like a tiger watching its prey. As long as Ning Fan is willing, he could use this technique to kill Dong Lin. However, he had no grudges with Dong Lin. There was no need for him to kill him just to see a cave dwelling. You, step down. Ning Fan ordered with a cold tone. Yes. Old Monster Dong Lin's body was already drenched in cold sweat. How would he dare to stay any longer in this place? As soon as he heard Ning Fan asking him to leave, he immediately cupped his fists excitedly as if he had just been pardoned. Then, he hurriedly ran to the upper floor. This technique is really terrifying. Zhou Nan's eyes were filled with astonishment. Perhaps only some old monsters at the rogue demon realm could display a powerful technique like the void ignition technique. Ning Fan was limited by his cultivation base. He could not display the full power of this technique. However, if his cultivation base was strong enough one day, perhaps no one in the demon world would be able to withstand his void ignition technique other than the 3 rogue demons. If this young man's cultivation base improves further, even I wouldn't dare to withstand this technique of his. Zhou Nan sighed. Great Elder, aren't you tired after following and watching for a long time? Let's go into the cave dwelling and have a rest. Ning Fan dispersed the giant butterfly and the fire diagram, exiting the incarnation state and soul extraction state. Then, he returned to his white-robed body. Even though he had defeated old monster Dong Lin, it was not an easy victory. Currently, his magic power was greatly depleted. The chances of him winning against the 3 shattering old monsters on the 21st floor were slim. He could only have a chance of winning after he recovered his magic power. Even if he could win against the 3 shattering old monsters, it would certainly be a tough battle. According to Ning Fan's estimation, after he recovers his magic power, he should be able to enter the top 20 floors before the competition ends. However, if he wants to defeat the 4 old monsters, his current strength was still far from enough. In the end, I still have to borrow Lei Jinzi's power to seize the cave dwelling from the 4 old monsters. Ning Fan remained silent for a while. Then, he dived into the sea that had already melted and entered the cave dwelling. Under Ning Fan's invitation, Zhou Nan no longer concealed himself. He showed himself and followed Ning Fan into the cave dwelling to rest. When he found out that Ning Fan was already a void fragmentation realm expert, he already regarded Ning Fan as his peer. However, he still did not think that Ning Fan could be a match for him. After watching the battle between Ning Fan and Dong Lin, Zhou Nan was filled with mixed emotions. Ning Fan's abilities were extremely powerful. Even if he wants to defeat Ning Fan, he would certainly have to go through a tough battle. If Ning Fan's cultivation base improves further, even he would most likely lose to Ning Fan. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Zhou Nan entered the cave dwelling to regulate his breathing and sat down to discuss the Tao with Ning Fan. Ning Fan consumed a pill to recover his magic power. Since he could not do anything else at the moment, he could only discuss the Tao. After their conversation, Zhou Nan could not help but be impressed by Ning Fan's profound Tao comprehension. As for Ning Fan, after recovering some of his magic power, he stood up and used the power of the primitive Emperor Jade to comprehend the Tao in this cave dwelling. The Tao of life and death in the first 20 floors were all the Tao comprehensions of immortals. The Tao of life and death in the 22nd floor was left behind by a rogue demon who had almost become an immortal. Even though that person had yet to become an immortal, his Tao comprehension had instantly attracted Ning Fan's attention. It was not that this person could not become an immortal. It was just that, his ambition was not to become an immortal. When ordinary people seek immortality, they seek immortality. However, what he sought was just the process of becoming an immortal. It was the process of comprehending life and death. Those who seek Tao forget life and death. Those who seek Tao are born in the morning and die in the evening. I have been cultivating the Tao all my life and I only seek to comprehend life and death thoroughly. It's a pity that I can't comprehend it. This person's understanding of life and death was already enough to become an immortal. However, he was not satisfied. What he wanted to understand was the origin of life and death, the origin of the great Tao. The dream that he pursued was too grand. It was so grand that he could not achieve it even if he died. Ning Fan closed his eyes and the scenery in front of him changed. He seemed to have turned into that rogue demon old monster, appearing in the memories of his mind. The place of his memories was the place where the rogue demon old monster comprehended the Tao all year round. It was a mortal town. Ning Fan seemed to have turned into the appearance of that rogue demon old monster, walking in the dusk of the setting sun. At this time, it was the time when farmers and merchants returned home. It was also the time when the lights in the restaurants were lit up. "Old Tan, why don't you come and have a drink? Hee hee. Today, we have your favorite peach blossom wine." Outside a restaurant called the Red Sleeve Pavilion, a beautiful woman who still retained her charm was trying to attract customers. "Sure." Ning Fan stepped into the restaurant. His current identity was that rogue demon old monster. He sat on the favorite seat of that old monster, paid the money and drank the wine. His eyes, however, were looking at the setting sun through the window. That rogue demon old monster's wish was to comprehend life and death thoroughly. The reason why he stayed in the mortal world was to comprehend the great Tao for mortals. Is this the life of this person? Is this the enlightenment of this person? Ning Fan calmly drank the wine. One more Tao mark gradually appeared on his primordial spirit. He put down the wine cup and was about to withdraw his state of mind and leave this illusory realm. Suddenly, his eyes turned cold and he stared at the window in disbelief. At this moment, a butterfly that was half black and half white flew past the window. When the butterfly saw Ning Fan, it suddenly stopped flying. It seemed to be a little puzzled. That butterfly was an ordinary mortal butterfly. However, it gave Ning Fan a soul-stirring feeling. This butterfly. Ning Fan's eyes changed dramatically. Chapter 645. The moment Ning Fan saw the butterfly, the blood in his body throbbed as if it was resonating with the butterfly. It was as if he was the butterfly and the butterfly was him. Ning Fan finally understood who this butterfly was. This butterfly is me in my previous life. It's doubtful because it saw its next life. In the old man's memory, Ning Fan met with his previous life. The butterfly in his previous life saw him in his next life. He seemed to have understood something, but he couldn't fully comprehend it due to his limited cultivation realm. This encounter seemed to be deliberately arranged by Samsara, but the nature of Samsara was far beyond his understanding. In Mu Weiliang's memory, Ning Fan had also seen his previous life and met the butterfly's eyes, but it wasn't as thrilling as it was now. At that time, his cultivation realm was still weak, far inferior to his current cultivation realm. Now that he met the butterfly's eyes, he seemed to have grasped a trace of Samsara. Samsara, Samsara, when the butterfly was born, I wasn't born. When I was born, the butterfly was already dead. My previous life and this life couldn't coexist. Because of the separation of life and death, we were separated by two lives. This is Samsara. I saw the butterfly and my previous life because I peeked into someone else's memory. It's not strange. But the butterfly also saw me. Why? What is it relying on? Why can it see me, see my next life? Ning Fan felt a sharp pain in his heart and forcefully withdrew himself from the memory. His eyes gradually became clear and his mind became clear. He seemed to have forgotten everything, including Zhou Nan who was beside him. In his mind, he was thinking about this encounter repeatedly. He seemed to have understood something, but he couldn't see through it. The first step of cultivation was to understand life and death. The second step was to understand the Tao truth. The third step was to understand time and space. The fourth step was to understand samsara. Transcending life and death, reversing the true and the void, rewriting time and space. Only by cultivating step by step could one finally understand samsara. Ning Fan didn't know all these at first because he was currently in a strange state. This state was the state of the unity of heaven and man. Initially, he didn't know what the purpose of cultivation was, but at this moment, he had an epiphany. It turned out that the purpose of cultivating step by step was to understand samsara. It turned out that the life and death he comprehended in the immortal ascension tower was just the first step of samsara. At this moment, Ning Fan's eyes were as vast as the great Tao. At this moment, Ning Fan's eyes were like the reincarnation cycle that could see through all life and death. Life and death were contained in samsara. He glanced at Zhou Nan, and to his surprise, he discovered that he could read all of Zhou Nan's memories. He saw how Zhou Nan was born. At the same time, he saw how Zhou Nan would die in the future. Without using any unnecessary means, he saw the scene of Zhou Nan's death many years later. 30,000 years later, you will attain the sixth heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. After that, your lifespan will come to an end. Ning Fan said to Zhou Nanyan with an indifferent tone. Zhou Nan's face was filled with shock. He was more shocked than ever. Even when he saw that Ning Fan possessed void fragmentation realm cultivation base, cultivated the Tao light of life and death and defeated Sui San, he was not as astonished as he was now. However, at this moment, when he met Ning Fan's eyes, he actually had a feeling of absurdity. He felt that Ning Fan's eyes could see through life and death. Ning Fan could see his life and death. If Ning Fan said that he still had 30,000 years before he would die, he believed him. Because he saw his own future in Ning Fan's eyes. What a terrifying gaze. There is a supreme great Tao in his eyes. I will die. I will die 30,000 years later. Just as Zhou Nan was thinking about that, he felt a sharp pain in his sea of consciousness and fainted. His short memory of knowing the date of his death was forcefully wiped away by the power of reincarnation. If he was awake, he would not remember Ning Fan's shocking gaze and his future. Samsara. This is the power of samsara. Although there is only a trace of samsara power in my eyes, Zhou Nan could not resist it at all. Comprehending life and death is only the first step of comprehending samsara. Life and death, true and void, space-time and then samsara. The current me can see through life and death. At this moment, Ning Fan did not spread out his spirit sense but his gaze could see through the entire Immortal Ascension Tower. His gaze swept from the 500th floor all the way to the first floor. All the cultivators inside and outside the abode felt as if they were looking straight into Ning Fan's eyes the moment they sensed his gaze. Looking into Ning Fan's eyes was like looking into the entire heaven and earth and the great Tao of the heavens. Ning Fan could see through their life and death with just a single glance. Ken Feng of the Fire Silkworm race died 1,200 years later. The cause of his death was an unsuccessful attempt to steal the treasure. Rogue cultivator Zhu Jun died 400 years later. The cause of death was the Void Pierce stage heavenly tribulation. Elder Feng and Elder Lei died 700 years later. The cause of death was the battle at the Azure Dragon Mountain ruins. Qi Gui of the Scarlet Palace will die 30,000 years later. You have a high chance of attaining the void fragmentation realm in this lifetime. However, you will die in the great calamity of the Scarlet Palace when you are at the void fragmentation realm. Yang Sha of the Flying Sand clan died 600 years later. The cause of death was the massacre of the Flying Sand clan, Wei Qing of the Green Wings clan. He died 3,200 years later. The cause of his death was cold poison biting his body. The Tian Shao clan's Jian Shao died 10 years later. The cause of death was an attempt to pluck. Sun Lan of the Valley Royal family died 57 years later. The cause of death was dangerous in a dangerous place. Ning Fan's eyes scanned through the layers of the abode. Any cultivator who was swept by his eyes would be instantly killed. They would see the state of their own death, and then they would faint on the ground, their memories wiped. Ning Fan's eyes scanned through the 100 floors below. Jin Guangzi and the other old monsters of Gue Yuan all fainted and fell to the ground. When they saw the state of their own death, their faces were filled with extreme fear. They knew that what they saw was not an illusion but the true heaven's will. Before they could understand why they would see the day of their deaths, Ning Fan's gaze suddenly swept past them. All of them fainted on the ground and their memories were wiped. The 35th floor of the Immortal Ascension Tower. Yun Yomu's expression changed greatly. From the heaven's will, he saw that he would die 1,000 years later. The cause of death was the Tao poison biting his body. Before he could react, he had already fainted on the ground. His memories were wiped and his face was filled with intense shock. The 29th floor of the Immortal Ascension Tower. The last Lord of Heaven had just taken back his abode. Before he could even sit down properly, his eyes were filled with fear. He was scanned by an extremely terrifying gaze. Then, he saw that in another 2,400 years, his entire clan would be destroyed by the enemy. Before he could react, the last Lord of Heaven also fainted on the ground and his memories were wiped. The 28th floor, the 27th floor, the 26th floor, each of the Void Fragmentation Realm old monsters saw their own deaths and fainted on the ground. Their memories were wiped. Be it the 3rd Heavenly Layer Void Fragmentation Realm cultivators, the 4th Heavenly Layer Void Fragmentation Realm or the 5th Heavenly Layer Void Fragmentation Realm, none of them could resist Ning Fan's gaze. It was because Ning Fan's eyes contained the power of samsara. On the 9th floor of the Immortal Ascension Tower, Sword Demon Gong Yangzi was shocked when he saw that he would die in the Immortal Burning Valley 1 year later. Then, he fainted on the ground and his memories were wiped. On the 8th floor of the Immortal Ascension Tower, Old Monster Xuanhua also saw that he would die in the Immortal Burning Valley 1 year later. Then, he fainted on the ground and lost his memories. On the 6th floor of the Immortal Ascension Tower, while He Shishio was sitting cross-legged, he was suddenly scanned by an extremely terrifying gaze. In that gaze, he saw the heaven's will and the state of his own death. His eyes were filled with shock. He was shocked by his own fate and the owner of that gaze. He was actually able to see through the heaven's will. He Shishio could not imagine what cultivation realm the expert was at to have such a terrifying gaze that could see through the heaven's will. Even the true immortal realm old ancestor of the Jade Dao sect did not have such a terrifying gaze. Heaven's will. Heaven's will. I don't want to die so miserably. But this is the heaven's will. Come to think of it, why does that mysterious expert's voice sound so familiar? I remember now. This voice, it's Bai Mu. He Shishio's heart was in turmoil. He could not believe that the person who could see through life and death with a gaze was Ning Fan. In the next moment, He Shishio felt a sharp pain in his sea of consciousness and fainted on the ground. His memories were wiped and all the shock was forgotten. The 5th floor, the 4th floor, the 3rd floor, the 2nd floor, one after another, 5th Heavenly Layer Void Fragmentation Realm old monsters could not resist the samsara power in Ning Fan's eyes. They fainted one after another and their memories were wiped. In the entire Immortal Ascension Tower, the only person who did not faint from Ning Fan's gaze was 7-break-old monster Tan Longzi. Although he did not faint from Ning Fan's gaze, the pain he suffered was countless times more than the others. This was because ordinary people would pass out cleanly, but he tried to resist the samsara power. As a result, the injuries in his sea of consciousness became more and more serious. What pained him the most was that he saw the state of his own death. Tan Longzi was disheartened, but he began to feel shocked again. He realized that a peerless expert had entered the Immortal Ascension Tower and had the ability to see through the heaven's will. Just a gaze from him was enough to make him lose all his strength. Who is this person? Could he be a life immortal or a true immortal from the upper world? While he was panicking, his expression suddenly changed. He saw a young man in white with eyes like the Tao walking towards him step by step on the first level of the cave. Tan Longzi died 20,000 years later. The cause of his death was because he failed to become an immortal. Ning Fan's gaze swept across Tan Longzi. Tan Longzi's sea of consciousness was in extreme pain and he almost fainted. He looked at Ning Fan in disbelief. It was hard to believe that an expert with peerless eyes was not a true immortal or a life immortal but a first heavenly layer void fragmentation realm junior. The one who let me see the heavens will is actually a first heavenly layer void fragmentation realm cultivator. Tan Longzi's gaze changed several times in just a few breaths. He could see that Ning Fan's cultivation base was far weaker than his. However, he also knew that if Ning Fan wanted to kill him at this moment, he would only need a gaze. In that gaze, there was a kind of terrifying power that he could not understand. That power caused him to be terrified, it caused his soul to tremble, and it caused him to be more and more unable to muster any will to resist. That power could see through life and death and see the heaven's will. That power was like the heaven's will. Little friend, you let me see the heaven's will. Your abilities are really incredible. Tan Longzi smiled bitterly. The reason why he came to the dragon fishing convention was to fish for the dragon pearl to increase his cultivation base and fight for the immortal ascension. However, after knowing that he would fail to become an immortal and die 20,000 years later, the passion in his heart gradually cooled down. He saw the heaven's will. The heaven's will couldn't be faked, however, as soon as he closed his eyes, the scene of his death would appear in his mind and he began to feel unwilling. The heavens will had determined that he would die 20,000 years later. He was unwilling to accept it. Tan Longzi also understood that the heavens will could not be disobeyed and could not be defied. However, which expert in the world would be willing to bow their heads and wait for death? Even if they knew that the heavens will could not be disobeyed, they still wanted to try and see if they could avoid the predestined fate. I'm not willing to fail to become an immortal. I'm not willing to die with hatred. However, I know that with my aptitude, becoming an immortal is already a matter of life and death. It's perfectly normal for me to die. It's hard to defy the heaven's will. Tan Longzi knew that he couldn't defy the heaven's will with his own strength. Suddenly, his eyes fell on Ning Fan. An idea flashed in his mind and he asked shamelessly. Little friend, since you can see through my life and death fate, I wonder if you have any way to help me change my fate. No. The heavens will naturally arrange a chance of survival. I don't know if it can change your fate, but I don't have the ability to help you. Ning Fan said indifferently. If I serve you as my master and follow you, I wonder if you can teach me the ability to see through the heavens will so that I can change my own fate. Tan Longzi asked nervously. Serve me as your master and follow me. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. At the moment when Tan Longzi said those words, he realized that Tan Longzi's fate had slightly shifted. Tan Longzi's death fate suddenly had a chance of survival. Ning Fan shook his head. He could not teach Tan Longzi the power of samsara. It was a coincidence that he entered the state of the union of heaven and man. However, it also seemed to be arranged by someone. He could see through the heavens will by borrowing the power of samsara. He could see through life and death with his eyes of samsara. Ning Fan himself did not know this ability. How could he teach it to others? Once the state of the union of heaven and man is removed, the samsara in his eyes would disappear. I have only used this ability once by chance. I haven't really mastered it yet, so I can't teach it to you. However, if you follow me, your fate will be slightly affected and change. If you serve me as your master, you won't fail to become an immortal 20,000 years later. However, due to your innate talent, your cultivation base will stop at the life immortal realm for the rest of your life. What? If I serve you as my master, I will actually have the chance to become an immortal in this life. Tan Longzi's eyes lit up. At this moment, Ning Fan seemed to have become a life-saving straw in his fate. He wanted to try and change his own fate. The people outside the Immortal Ascension Tower had no idea what was happening inside the tower. The only thing they could see was Bai Mu's ranking rising continuously. In the end, he rose from the 23rd place to the 1st place. Old ancestor Bai Mu actually managed to snatch the abode from Senior Tan Longzi. This is absolutely impossible. Senior Tan Longzi is a 7th heavenly layer void fragmentation realm expert. It's impossible for him to lose to old ancestor Bai Mu. Everyone found it unbelievable. At this moment, no one thought that Ning Fan could defeat Tan Longzi with his 1st heavenly layer void fragmentation realm cultivation base. Something special must have happened. Otherwise, it was impossible for him to snatch the abode with his 1st heavenly layer void fragmentation realm cultivation base. The Yuan Emperor's eyes darkened. He really wanted to know what exactly happened inside the Immortal Ascension Tower. Unfortunately, for the sake of fairness, the battles inside the Immortal Ascension Tower were not visible to outsiders. No one knew what happened inside the tower. The rankings on the Demon Steel did not show any abnormalities. Other than Ning Fan's rising ranking, the others were still normal. The Yuan Emperor took out Great Elder Zhou Nan's life token and transmitted his voice to it. The reply he got was Zhou Nan's thunderous snoring. He fell asleep. The Yuan Emperor was stunned. Without Zhou Nan's message, he could only enter the tower himself to find out what happened inside. There was still 1 hour left before the end of the grand competition. The Yuan Emperor pondered for a while and decided that there was no need for him to enter the tower again. When the grand competition ends and everyone comes out, everything would be clear to him. The Ape Emperor closed his eyes and waited quietly for the grand competition to end. His heart was filled with killing intent towards Ning Fan. An hour passed in the blink of an eye. The Ape Emperor suddenly opened his eyes. At this moment, the gate of the Immortal Ascension Tower was opened. Countless cultivators gathered themselves and looked at the gate of the Immortal Ascension Tower. Gradually, cultivators flew out of the tower one after another. Each of them looked sleepy. They had just woken up from their unconscious state. When they woke up, they did not remember seeing the way they died. As soon as these old monsters came out, countless disciples of the sect went to greet them and asked them questions. These old monsters still remembered that they were taught a lesson by Ning Fan. When they saw the first position on the Demon Steel, their faces were filled with shock and their tiredness disappeared. The one who obtained the first floor of the abode is actually Bai Mu. Be it those who knew about Ning Fan's Void Fragmentation Realm cultivation base or those who did not, all of them were shocked. After all, no one expected that Ning Fan could obtain the abode from Tan Longzi. As for Tan Longzi, he only obtained the abode on the 20th floor. He Shishio and the others walked out of the Immortal Ascension Tower and looked at the Demon Steel. Other than Yunyomu, the other three were shocked and they saw what was on the steel. Amir Bai Mu actually obtained the first floor of the abode. How is this possible? Not long after, Zhou Nan also came out. Uncle Zhou. Tan Zixin suddenly shouted because she saw Zhou Nan, an old man who was yawning and flying out of the Immortal Ascension Tower. Zhou Nan was stunned. Then, he flew towards Tan Zixin with a smile. He took out the jade slip that he used to test Ning Fan and passed it to her. Tan Zixin took the jade slip. After taking a glance at it, her pretty face was immediately filled with joy. He can save Grandpa. He can. What? Bai Mu can cure the old. He can cure that person's injuries. Zhou Nan was so excited that he nearly blurted out. Only then did he realize that Tan Zixin did not look for Ning Fan because of a romantic relationship. Instead, she wanted to save the old Yuan Emperor. All of a sudden, all the cultivators at the scene held their breaths. They saw a white-robed young man flying out of the Immortal Ascension Tower together with Tan Longzi. That young man was none other than Ning Fan, who had caused a huge commotion in this competition. He is old ancestor Bai Mu, who obtained the first place in this competition. On the high platform, countless low-grade cultivators looked at Ning Fan with respect. There were also countless young ladies who could not help but fall in love with Ning Fan when they saw his youthful appearance. Humph! Are you Bai Mu? A discordant voice suddenly resounded across the entire North Heaven primordial city like a sudden clap of thunder. Ning Fan's eyes turned cold the moment he heard the voice. On the high platform in the north, the figure of the ape sovereign was gradually turning into a shadow and disappearing. Suddenly, a burly man in black robes with thick hair appeared in the empty space in front of Ning Fan. Without saying a word, he directly grabbed Ning Fan's neck with his 5 fingers. This person was none other than the ape sovereign. As soon as Ning Fan appeared, he already wanted to take him down. Everyone was shocked by the sudden change on the stage. He Shishio's eyes flashed with surprise. Then, he sneered. Let's not talk about how this Bai Mu obtained the first floor of the cave dwelling. He seems to have offended the dignified ape sovereign Dao Kong. Now, there's going to be a good show to watch. The Yuan sovereign was also shocked. Of course, he did not expect the ape sovereign Dao Kong to attack Ning Fan without considering his identity. The Yuan sovereign's physical body was at the 7th heavenly layer of Nirvana realm while Ning Fan was only at the 1st heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. The huge difference in their cultivation levels made countless people think that Ning Fan would be taken down by the ape sovereign Dao Kong. Tan Zixin's face turned pale with fright. She immediately sent a telepathic message to her father from afar, hoping that her father could save Ning Fan. As soon as he heard that Ning Fan could actually heal the injuries of the previous Yuan sovereign, his expression changed drastically. Without hesitation, he wanted to save Ning Fan. Unfortunately, his cultivation base was much weaker than Dao Kong's. Moreover, it was already too late for him to save Ning Fan. Even if he were to intervene, he probably would not be able to save Ning Fan. You can't kill people in Heaven Primordial City. Come with me. Dao Kong was intimidated by the previous Yuan sovereign's reputation. Thus, he did not dare to kill Ning Fan in this place. What he was thinking was to temporarily capture Ning Fan and bring him out of the territory of the Yuan Palace before killing him. Even though he did not use his full strength, it was still enough to capture Ning Fan easily. Unexpectedly, before his claw could reach Ning Fan's neck, Tan Longzi who was standing beside Ning Fan had already taken a step forward and stood in front of Ning Fan. Tan Longzi's eyes were extremely cold. He looked at the ape sovereign Dao Kong as if he was looking at a great enemy. To him, whoever attacks Ning Fan is a great enemy. He suddenly raised his sleeve and swept it at Dao Kong. Even though it was a soft sleeve, it contained terrifying demonic power and great abilities. You can't touch this Bai Mu. Void Technique, Universe Concealing Sleeve. Tan Longzi was known as the barefooted Taoist due to his unique appearance. The technique that made him famous was none other than the Universe Concealing Sleeve technique. Chapter 646. Tan Longzi's appearance was rather peculiar. He was thin and strangely tall, with yellow eyebrows and no beard. His appearance was haggard, and he walked barefoot. He had the bloodline of the yellow dragon, but his bloodline rank was not high. He had barely reached the rank of true blood. He had suddenly attacked and used the heaven and earth in a sleeve to stop Dao Kong, and this greatly surprised Dao Kong. The heaven and earth sleeve was a divine ability that was both offensive and defensive. When attacking, it could injure people with the sleeve wind, and when defending, it could take away the enemy's divine ability. A yellow light shone in Tan Longzi's sleeve, and the power in Dao Kong's claw suddenly froze. The glare from his finger was strangely taken away. A dark yellow gust of wind charged at Dao Kong's chest. With one strike, it was as if 10,000 mountains had crashed down on him. Even with the strength of Dao Kong's physical body, when he was caught off guard, several of his ribs were broken by the wind. He retreated tens of thousands of feet in the sky before stabilizing himself. Every step he took back would shatter a piece of the void. The dark yellow gale was Tan Longzi's natal astral wind that he had bitterly cultivated for many years. Its power was naturally not to be underestimated. The ape emperor Dao Kong was a 7th Shatterer cultivator, and his fleshly body had also reached the 7th Nirvana realm. Logically speaking, he should have been able to withstand the astral winds. However, Tan Longzi's attack had been too sudden, and Dao Kong had been caught off guard, which was why he had been injured by Tan Longzi's attack. Tan Longzi, you dare to go against me for a mere Bai Mu? Dao Kong flew into a rage. Black light shone around him, and his broken bones reconnected on their own. He was healed. This wasn't the star healing technique, but a body regeneration technique that cultivators above the 5th heavenly layer of Nirvana realm possessed. Although he suffered a small loss at the hands of Tan Longzi, his strength was above Tan Longzi's, so he naturally did not fear Tan Longzi in the slightest. Humph! What do you mean by a mere white wood? Bai Mu is this old man's master. How can I allow you to make a move to harm him? Tan Longzi replied with a cold smile. As soon as this was said, all of the tens of thousands of cultivators present were shocked. What? Ancestor Whitewood was actually Senior Tan Longzi's master. This. Many people were shocked by this news. In the demon world, even though Tan Longzi was not a demon sovereign, he was still a famous figure in the world. No one would dare to underestimate him with his cultivation base at the 7th heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. Even some Shatterer 1 and Shatterer 2 cultivators would have to address Tan Longzi as senior. It was simply unbelievable that a person with such a high status like Tan Longzi would actually serve Ning Fan as his master. And from the looks of it, Tan Longzi's eyes didn't show any signs of being forced. He was completely willing to be a servant. Who exactly is Ning Fan? He can actually make Tan Longzi willingly become his servant. The entire North Tianyuan city was dead silent in a split second. Even the primitive sovereign who was about to rescue Ning Fan withdrew his hand and watched the scene in silence. Tan Longzi, I'm not in the mood to joke with you, the ape emperor Dao Kong's gaze darkened. He did not believe that Tan Longzi, who was at the 7th Shatterer realm, would become the servant of Bai Mu, who was at the 1st Shatterer realm. This was simply too absurd. He Shishio's eyes widened in shock. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Even though he was a Taoist of the Jade Dao sect in the upper realm, he was only assigned a few servants by the sect. He was merely the 3rd Taoist of the Jade Dao sect. Only the great Taoist was qualified to have a fragmented 7 servant. What right does this Bai Mu have to be able to take the 7 old freaks as servants? I don't believe it. The ape emperor and He Shishio were not the only ones who did not believe it. Among the tens of thousands of cultivators present, none of them would believe such a ridiculous thing. Tan Longzi did not want to explain anything. He suddenly bent his knees and half knelt on the ground, cupping his fists at Ning Fan. This subordinate's name is Tan Longzi. My demon title is Barefoot Taoist. However, from today onwards, this subordinate is Master's servant. I beg Master to give me a new name. From today onwards, this subordinate will definitely follow Master through life and death. This scene made everyone's eyes widen in bewilderment. Tan Longzi did not look like he was joking at all. A dignified 7th Shatterer realm old freak actually knelt before someone and willingly became his servant. He actually gave up his previous reputation and begged Ning Fan to give him a new name. He was not joking. He really was not joking. Tan Longzi was really going to serve Ning Fan as his master. You have the Yellow Dragon's demon bloodline. I will give you a new name. From today onwards, you will be called Li Long. Your descendants will be the Li Dragon clan. Li Long, the servant of the dragon of Fu Li. No one knew how excited Tan Longzi was at this moment. From today onwards, his name would be Li Long and he would be Ning Fan's servant. Others might not know how powerful Ning Fan was, but he did. He was the only one who still remembered Ning Fan's terrifying eyes. He was also the only one who knew that Ning Fan had an ancestral demon bloodline in the Immortal Ascension Tower. When Ning Fan planted the demon seal on him, he deliberately revealed the pressure of his bloodline in order to convince this person wholeheartedly. In front of the pressure of Ning Fan's 4 drops of ancestral blood, Tan Longzi was completely stunned. The pressure of Ning Fan's bloodline was not inferior to that of the true Dragon Clan's leader in the demon spirit land. Moreover, the type of Ning Fan's demon bloodline was something that Tan Longzi had never seen before. It was incomparably powerful, as if it was the ruler of all demons. Even though the luck of this blood was filthy and its demon sense was evil, it contained the pride of a supreme being. It was the pride that once oversaw the heavenly Tao and ruled over all living beings. This kind of bloodline seemed to be countless times more noble than the blood of a true dragon. Ning Fan even took out a trace of Fu Li's ancestral blood and gave it to Tan Longzi to help him improve his bloodline. Even though it was only a trace of the ancestral blood, it greatly increased the density of Tan Longzi's original yellow dragon bloodline. However, after obtaining the Fu Li's blood, that bloodline no longer seemed to be suitable to be called the yellow dragon bloodline. Even though Ning Fan's cultivation base was not high, his abilities were shocking. His identity was also a dignified demon ancestor. Moreover, he even gave Tan Longzi his bloodline. Tan Longzi naturally would not feel wronged at all to be a servant of such a person. On the contrary, he was very proud of it. He firmly believed that as long as he followed Ning Fan in this life, he would certainly be able to change his destiny. Thank you, Master, for bestowing me with a name. From today onwards, this subordinate will be called Li Long. In the future, I will definitely establish the Li Dragon clan and help Master conquer the world. Get up. Yes. Tan Longzi. No, Li Long stood up respectfully and stood beside Ning Fan, glaring at the Ape Emperor Dao Kong. Even though he was slightly weaker than Dao Kong, with him around, Dao Kong could forget about harming Ning Fan at all. The Ape Emperor Dao Kong's expression was extremely ugly. At the same time, he looked at Ning Fan with great fear while guessing inwardly. Could it be that this young man is already a member of the true spirit clan in the upper world? In Dao Kong's opinion, only when Ning Fan has the identity of a cultivator from the upper world would he be qualified to take Li Long as his servant. Similar guesses rose in many people's minds. Dao Kong was hesitant. Of course, he was not afraid of Li Long, but he began to worry that Ning Fan might have a powerful background. If Ning Fan really had a powerful background, it seemed a little unwise to offend him just for a mere disciple. Ape Emperor. Little friend Bai Mu is an important guest of my Yuan Hall. If he is in trouble, I will not sit by and do nothing. If he is injured, the old primitive sovereign will not let this matter rest either. The primitive sovereign stood with his hands clasped behind his back. His eyes were dignified and firm. Since Ning Fan was so important to the old primitive sovereign, he would do his best to ensure that Ning Fan remained unscathed even if he had to mobilize all of the Yuan Hall's forces. The primitive sovereign was also guessing that Ning Fan might have already gotten in touch with a great clan in the upper world. Regardless of whether that was the truth or not, he had decided to protect Ning Fan just to treat the old primitive sovereign's injuries. He would not hesitate to start a war with the Ape Palace. Even the Yuan Hall wants to protect this young man, huh? As soon as he heard the old primitive sovereign's name, Dao Kong's eyes became even more gloomy. If he were to become enemies with the Yuan Hall in order to deal with Ning Fan, it would not be worth it. Even though Dao Kong was arrogant and overbearing, he was not a fool. He would not openly become enemies with the Yuan Hall and offend a force that was led by a rogue demon. He suspected that Ning Fan had a venerable identity. Thus, he would not easily take action again. Dao Kong's eyes flashed. Even though his expression was unpleasant, he had already made up his mind. Let's go. Dao Kong's eyes were cold. He turned around and flew back to the high platform in the north. With a grim expression, he led several hundred experts away on a demon cloud. As soon as he left, countless people felt relieved. Even the Fox Sovereign and the Green Sovereign's expressions became slightly more relaxed. The Ape Emperor Dao Kong's notoriety was too great. If this place was not the Yuan Hall but a slightly weaker demon palace, and if Ning Fan did not have Li Long as his servant, Dao Kong would not have lowered his head to him and left willingly. Damn it! That Bai Mu actually has the protection of the Yuan Hall and even Tan Longzi as his servant. If that's the case, how can I lay my hands on such a perfect human cauldron? The Snake Sovereign's old face was tense. She was in a very bad mood. Even the Ape Emperor Dao Kong had to lower his head in front of the Yuan Hall. She did not even dare to offend the Yuan Hall's noble guest. Especially when Ning Fan had Tan Longzi, an old monster at the 7th fragmentation realm, following him. She did not dare to provoke him easily. "I think it's better to consider this matter at length," she muttered to herself unwillingly. The competition of the Immortal Ascension Pagoda ended with such a shocking result. The Ape Emperor came with a strong aura force but returned with a gloomy face. Ning Fan's name was unknown when he entered the pagoda, but when he left, his name shook the world. It had only been half a day since the competition of the Immortal Ascension Pagoda ended, but old ancestor Bai Mu's name had already been spread to all the demon seas in the demon world using various secret techniques. Some people even revealed that Ning Fan had cultivated the life and death Tao light. As soon as this news spread, the expressions of the two rogue demons of the Red Hall and the Fox Palace changed. Someone revealed that all the cultivators in the Immortal Ascension Pagoda had mysteriously fainted, and it might be related to Ning Fan. Someone reported to the Yuan Hall that Ning Fan had killed 4 void-pierced stage experts in the Immortal Ascension Pagoda. These reports made the old Yuan Emperor laugh out loud and ordered them to be ignored. This Bai Mu is indeed an outstanding junior. Moreover, according to that little girl, Zxin, he can even help me heal my injuries. He. It seems like I have the foresight to borrow Bai Mu's primordial emperor jade. With this kind of good karma, he should be able to help me heal my injuries. Sigh. What a troublesome injury. In the palace of the Demon River, a group of female cultivators of the Light Feather clan gaped in astonishment when they heard countless news about Ning Fan. Their old ancestor Bai Mu was actually a dignified void fragmentation realm old monster. Moreover, he even took the world-famous barefoot Taoist as his servant. This is just too unimaginable. Old ancestor's reputation is so well known. Even if we become his concubines, it won't be a waste for us sisters. A young lady with white feathers said with a smile. TCH. What kind of person is old ancestor? With his identity, he can have any woman with any cultivation base he wants. Why would he take a fancy to us? A young lady said self-deprecatingly. Hua Yu sat in her room, pursing her lips. Her face was flushed red. Yesterday, she wanted to offer herself to Ning Fan to protect the other women but was knocked out by him. When she woke up, she found herself lying on Ning Fan's bed with a thin blanket covering her body. Her primordial red hair was not torn and her clothes were not messed up. There were no signs of her being humiliated. She still remembered Ning Fan's promise before she fainted. He told her that he would not touch any of the women of the Light Feather clan. He's not a lecher. He's not the notorious filthy person that others say he is. He's a dignified void fragmentation realm expert who can shake the entire demon world. Hua Yu's eyes were filled with admiration. In the main hall, the little demoness looked at Ning Fan as if she was looking at a monster. Then, she looked at Li Long who was behind him. She had made countless guesses about the outcome of the competition, but she did not expect that Ning Fan would use such a method to shake the entire demon world within a day. Li Long greets mistress. Li Long cupped his fists and bowed to the little demoness. He had already acknowledged Ning Fan as his master. Naturally, he would not regret it. Even though the little demoness cultivation base was only at the harmonious spirit realm, her identity was Ning Fan's Tao companion. Li Long naturally did not dare to disrespect her. He. What did you call me? Call me again. The little demoness giggled, seemingly very satisfied with how Li Long addressed her. Li Long greets mistress. Call me that again. Li Long greets mistress. Call me that again. Li Long greets mistress. The little demoness was very satisfied with the 2 words mistress. Then, she said to Ning Fan ambiguously. Husband, this servant of yours is really fun. Lend him to me to play with for a few days. No. Ning Fan rubbed his forehead. Even though Li Long was his servant in name, he was still an old monster of the demon world who once shook the world. Li Long had his dignity. Even though he was a servant, he could not let the little demoness mess with him. Li Long, I'll give you a mission. There are still 3 days before the fishing dragon assembly. Within these 3 days, you will go to the nearby demon sea and purchase all the pills and heavenly materials that can repair the primordial spirit. You don't have to worry about not having enough immortal jade. Ning Fan took out a storage pouch and gave it to Li Long. There were about 1 trillion immortal jade in it. Li Long's eyes scanned the storage pouch and roughly counted the amount of immortal jade. His eyes were filled with surprise, but he did not ask why a demon cultivator like Ning Fan would need items to repair the primordial spirit. This subordinate will definitely complete the mission. Li Long cupped his fists and disappeared in a flash. After handing in Li Long's mission, Ning Fan returned to his room and prepared to refine the pure essence pills. Logically speaking, he should be rewarded with 1 pure essence pill for obtaining the first level of the cave. However, the primitive sovereign sent someone to give him 10 pure essence pills, which was exactly 1 bottle. The extra pills were naturally meant to befriend Ning Fan. Ning Fan naturally accepted them without any hesitation. There were still 3 days before the official start of the fishing dragon assembly. During these 3 days, he decided to refine the pure essence pills to improve the cultivation of his spirit sense. After that, he would go to the 9 pavilions to retrieve the fishing rod and find an opportunity to return the primitive sovereign jade to the primitive sovereign. I wonder if I can break through to the 2nd heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm after taking 10 pure essence pills. In the northern demon sea, there was an inconspicuous demon island in an extremely desolate sea area. There was a cave dwelling under a short peak on the island. Countless white bones were placed at the entrance of the cave. All of them were the remains of women. Inside the cave, there was a middle-aged man with evil chi who was as thin as a skeleton. His eyes flashed with green evil light which was as dazzling as the sun. He picked up an information jade slip from the half-eaten corpse of a woman beside him. Looking at the person in the information, the middle-aged man sneered. He is not Bai Mu. All of a sudden, the aura force of the 2nd heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm spread out from the middle-aged man's body. If the star stones of my Lightwing clan are devoured separately, they can only help those who have comprehended the starlight healing technique to improve their star power. However, if 10 star stones are put together and arranged according to a certain rule, they can obtain the star cultivation technique that has been passed down for generations by the ancestors of the Lightwing clan. This person helped me kill the leader of the Xianhe clan. I am very grateful to him. Unfortunately, the star stones of the Lightwing clan don't belong to him. He can forget about taking them away. The star stones are mine. All these years, I have been in seclusion in this place. Every day, I pluck and devour women. I am no longer who I used to be. I will no longer be hunted down by a mere half-step void refinement realm expert. This time, I am going to ask the superior demons to help me take back the star stones. Chapter 647. Ning Fan's body swayed and entered the profound Yin world. He was not in a hurry to refine the Yuanqing pill. Instead, he went to check on Luo Yu. Inside the thatched cottage, Luo Yu was recuperating while sitting cross-legged. Her cultivation base had already recovered to the peak of the 3rd heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. If Li Long could find more items that could repair the essence soul in 3 days, Luo Yu's cultivation would recover even more. Seeing that Luo Yu was safe and sound, Ning Fan felt relieved. He chose a place that was far away from the thatched cottage and sat cross-legged on the dark clouds. He examined the 500 Tao marks of life and death on his primordial spirit and recalled his trip to the immortal Ascension Tower. The unity of heaven and man is truly a terrifying divine ability. The unity of heaven and man was an extreme state. Once one entered it, one's comprehension would instantly rise to an unimaginable height. Including the time he entered the immortal Ascension Pagoda, he had entered this state 3 times in total. For the first time, he traveled thousands of miles with his golden core divine will and attracted the attention of the tablet-wielding celestial emperor, Meng Xuanzi. For the second time, he used his divine transformation realm cultivation base to create his own divine art and borrowed lightning monarch Tai Su's magic power to fight against Imo Luo. For the third time, with his cultivation base at the first heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm, he was able to see through life and death with a single glance. With just a single glance, he flattened the entire immortal ascension tower. Such a great divine ability could only be found by luck. Even among immortal emperors, not many people could grasp it. After all, this sort of divine ability was closely related to Tao comprehension and Tao fate. If one's Tao wisdom and fate were lacking, then no matter how high one's cultivation was, one would not be fated with this technique. After clearing his mind, Ning Fan took out a golden jade bottle from his storage pouch. The jade bottle had the totem of Yuanyi carved on it. The jade bottle was extraordinary. It was specially made by Palace of Origin to seal 7th Revolution pills. There were 10 Vitality Clear pills in it. The Vital Clarity pill was a low-grade 7th Revolution pill that could greatly improve the spirit sense of a first demolishing cultivator. If a cultivator with 2 broken bones were to take it, the medicinal effect would be halved. If 3 cultivators were to consume it, the medicinal effect would be halved again. So on and so forth, the higher one's cultivation, the worse the effects of consuming this pill. If one's cultivation base reaches the 5th heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm, the medicinal effect of this pill would be minimal. This was similar to void fragmentation realm cultivators absorbing the power of the Tao crystal to improve their cultivation level. For ordinary cultivators, every time they refined 10 Tao crystals, they could increase their magic power by 1 yuan hui. If it was broken into 2, the effect would be halved. If it was broken by 3, it would be halved. After breaking 5, he would need to absorb 160 Tao crystals to increase his magic power by 1 yuan. The higher one's cultivation level was, the weaker the effect of the Taoist crystal would be. When one reached the life immortal realm, one would be completely unable to absorb the power of the Taoist crystal. Just like the former Rain Sovereign, Yun Zhongshuan, his cultivation base stopped at the 5th heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm before he died. He was still 50,000 yuan away from breaking the 6th level. He needed to refine 8 million Tao crystals before he could break through. 8 million Tao crystals were equivalent to 40 trillion immortal jades. This was the wealth that could only be obtained by 10 Rain Palaces. It was naturally impossible for the Rain Emperor to use the Tao crystal to break through to the 6th Shatterer level. Thus, he had to find other ways to increase his cultivation level. Ning Fan then took out a slightly smaller golden pill bottle. Inside this pill bottle was an essence clear pill which was given to him by Exalted Dragon Li. To Li Long, the origin clear pill was not essential. After all, his cultivation base had already reached the 7th heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. A total of 11 origin clear pills. My spirit sense has a great chance of breaking through to the 2nd heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. He took out an origin clear pill from the pill bottle and swallowed it. Then, he began to refine it. With the refinement speed of the profoundine world that was 100 times faster than in the past, his cultivation base at the void fragmentation realm was naturally very fast. 1 day passed. Ning Fan had already completely refined 11 origin clear pills. At this moment, there were a total of 11 balls of clear qi in his sea of consciousness. They were slowly fusing into his sea of consciousness. Each time a ball of clear qi fused into his sea of consciousness, Ning Fan's sea of consciousness would become more stable and his spirit sense would also improve greatly. Gradually, Ning Fan's spirit sense reached the peak of the 1st heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. Gradually, the bottleneck of his spirit sense was broken through by the balls of clear qi. His spirit sense naturally broke through to the 2nd heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. Ning Fan suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes flashed with a bright light. Then, they became reserved. Origin clear pill, huh? It's a good pill. To me, the stronger my spirit sense is, the stronger my combat power will be. It would be great if I can get my hands on the pill recipe of the Origin clear pill. Of course, it would be even better if I can get my hands on more Origin clear pills. Even if he takes the pill recipe away, Li Tsangtian was the only one who could concoct this pill at the moment. Ning Fan's pill refinement mastery was not good enough to concoct it yet. If it's a finished pill that could be consumed directly, it would naturally be better. The Palace of Origin had a deep foundation. There were 7th Revolution pill masters in the palace and they also had quite a number of Origin clear pills. Ning Fan pondered for a while. He had given Li Long 1 trillion immortal jade and he still had 2 trillion immortal jade in his hands. He could not generate more money just by keeping some of it to set up formations. As for the rest, it would be better to use it. If he uses these 2 trillion immortal jade to buy Origin clear pills from the Palace of Origin, he did not know how many Origin clear pills he could buy. If he could not buy too many Origin clear pills, it would also be a good choice to exchange the immortal jade for Dao crystals. After all, Dao crystals could be used for cultivation. Of course, the exchange price was naturally higher than 1 Dao crystal which was worth 5 million immortal jade. After his spirit sense advanced to the next level, Ning Fan meditated for another day to stabilize his spirit sense completely. Then, he flicked his sleeves and took out 10 stones that were as bright as stars. The star stones of the Light Feather clan. Each of the star stones contained a powerful amount of star power. According to Ning Fan's estimation, a star stone could be used to forge 10 natal stars and there would still be some left. 10 of them could be used to forge more than 100 natal stars. If he refines all 10 of them, the number of natal stars he would have would exceed 200. With such a large number of natal stars, his healing speed would naturally be much faster. However, 200 natal stars were still not enough for him to survive the joint attacks of a void fragmentation realm expert. He could only ignore the injuries of a void refinement realm expert. The number of natal stars must be at least 1,000 to be able to instantly heal a void fragmentation realm expert's injuries. In ancient times, many experts of the demon race cultivated the Tao of the starry sky and used starlight to heal their injuries. At that time, the cultivation star cultivation method was once popular. However, most of these cultivation methods were lost in the later generations. Even though I have obtained a great opportunity and comprehended the strongest star healing technique, the Black Star technique, I have yet to obtain any cultivation star cultivation method. Thus, I can't increase the number of my stars through cultivation. I can only passively increase the number of my stars by devouring the star power of heavenly ingredients and earthly treasures when I occasionally encounter opportunities. It's hard to get a copy of a cultivation star cultivation method. I'm afraid that even in the demon spirit land of the upper world, only the true spirit clan has such a cultivation method. 10 star stones hovered around Ning Fan. Ning Fan reached out his hand and sucked one of them into his palm, trying to absorb the power of the starry sky within it. Just as he absorbed a trace of starlight, his expression changed slightly and he stopped absorbing it. He stared at the star stone in his palm with a puzzled look. After tossing the star stone back to the sky, Ning Fan raised his hand and grabbed another star stone. He did not absorb the star power. Instead, he just closed his eyes and sensed the flow of the star power within the star stone. The third, the fourth, the fifth, Ning Fan examined all 10 star stones. Finally, he seemed to have confirmed something. His eyes turned slightly solemn. Interesting. There's actually a trace of extremely weak formation power within the star stones of the Light Feather clan. If I haven't learned the heart formation technique, I'm afraid I won't be able to detect this trace of weak formation power. Each of the 10 star stones contains formation power. Moreover, the direction of the formation power's flow is different. It seems like there's some kind of mystery within them, someone has left some kind of message within these 10 star stones and concealed it with formation power. Only by combining the 10 star stones into a formation and unlocking the formation power can I obtain the hidden message. Ning Fan looked at the 10 star stones that were hovering around him and gradually fell into deep thought. When these 10 star stones were hovering, they formed 10 moving tracks. Some of them were near while some were far away. Some were high and some were low. With Ning Fan's cultivation base in the Tao of formation, he could tell that these 10 moving tracks were the key to unlocking the formation power. He must place the correct star stones into the correct tracks in order to unravel the formation power. 10 star stones with 10 different tracks. There are a total of 362,8800 ways of arranging them. Among them, only one of them is in the correct order. If I try them one by one, it'll take too much time to find the correct order. Ning Fan didn't have a lot of time to arrange the star stones 362 million times. He closed his eyes and activated the heart formation technique to sense the star power veins of the 10 star stones. The way the 10 star stones revolved around Ning Fan was like how 10 guardian stars revolved around a cultivation planet. Each of the 10 star stones had different formation power. The different formation power could be connected from the beginning to the end according to a certain order. For the entire day, Ning Fan didn't open his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, he had already made a conclusion. This star orbit should be this star stone, Ning Fan muttered to himself. He pointed his finger and changed the orbit of 2 of the star stones. This star orbit should be this piece of star stone. After pondering for a while, Ning Fan moved again and kept changing the orbit of the star stones. It was as if he was deducing the movement of the stars in the sky. Gradually, there were already 8 star stones that had their orbits changed by Ning Fan. Ning Fan's gaze shifted to the last 2 star stones. With a flick of his sleeve, he swapped the 2 star stones' orbits. When the 2 stars were swapped, the 10 star stones suddenly flashed at the same time. Then, a massive wave of star power gushed out from the 10 star stones and swept towards Ning Fan. As soon as they were swept by the vast star power, messy and complicated information was immediately transmitted into Ning Fan's sea of consciousness. Ning Fan closed his eyes and tidied up the messy information carefully. At this moment, he felt like he was in the galaxy of the myriad worlds. When the star power gradually dispersed, Ning Fan slowly opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with disbelief. This is the lost cultivation method of the Ice Phoenix clan, Cold Star secret record. The 10 star stones actually contained an ancient cultivation method of the Ice Phoenix clan. The Light Feather clan was basically the descendant of the Ice Phoenix clan. They had been keeping this cultivation method for generations. Unfortunately, there was no one in the Light Feather clan in the mortal world who understood the heart formation technique. Thus, they could not see through the mysteries of the star stones. This star stone was passed down from generation to generation by the clan leaders. However, no one knew exactly how extraordinary it was. Only the real Bai Mu knew. The ancestor of Bai Mu was the old monster who personally sealed the star stones. The Cold Star secret record was passed down from generation to generation in the Whitewood clan. Unfortunately, the Whitewood clan could not decipher the mysteries of the star stones even after generations. Ning Fan stared at the 10 star stones in silence. The Cold Star secret record that he obtained was an extremely profound cultivation method of the star cultivation method. If one cultivates it all the way, one could at most cultivate 100,000 natal stars. The so-called cold star referred to absorbing cold yin qi in a place with extreme yin energy and condensing them into natal stars. The more stars one had, the colder the place of extreme yin energy used for cultivation would be. If an ordinary cultivator could cultivate 100,000 stars, they could probably resist the attacks of a life immortal realm cultivator without dying. What Ning Fan cultivated was the strongest cultivation method, the Black Star technique. If he could cultivate 10,000 stars, he would be unscathed even if he was besieged by a life-immortal realm cultivator. If he could cultivate 100,000 stars, he would be able to survive even if he was besieged by a true immortal realm cultivator. If he had 1,000,000 black stars, he would be able to survive even if he was besieged by an immortal emperor in the past. This technique means a lot to me. Ever since Ning Fan obtained the inheritance of the star stones, the formation power of the 10 star stones instantly disappeared. Other than being devoured and refined, they no longer had any other use. Ning Fan held the 10 star stones in his palm. After letting out a sigh, he absorbed all the star power of the 10 star stones. After absorbing all the star power, the number of natal stars in his body had reached 212, which was a lot more than what he expected. After resting for a while, Ning Fan left the profound Yin world in a flash and headed to the 9 upper pavilions. With Tan Zixin's refining speed, the purple-grade fishing rod had already been successfully refined. Of course, Ning Fan came to collect the goods. He did not conceal his speed and rushed to the 9 upper pavilions at the speed of the void fragmentation realm. Along the way, all the old monsters who saw Ning Fan's movement light were filled with respect and fear. A person who could make the palace of Yuan treat him as a distinguished guest, a person who could make the 7 old monsters of the break realm willingly become his servant, and a person who could cultivate the Tao light of life and death was enough to make these old monsters live forever without any hostility. When Ning Fan landed outside the 9 upper pavilions, he saw the master of the 9 upper pavilions standing outside as if he was waiting for him. As soon as he saw Ning Fan, the master of the 9 upper pavilions did not dare to show any neglect. He went forward and cupped his fists respectfully. "Greetings, Senior Bai Mu." The last time Ning Fan came, he revealed his void inquiry stage cultivation base. Thus, he naturally addressed him as a fellow Taoist. Now that Ning Fan had revealed his void fragmentation realm identity, how would he dare to address him as a fellow Taoist? Naturally, he had to address him as a senior. "Pavilion Master, you don't have to be so courteous. I came here today to collect the purple-grade fishing rod. I wonder if Miss Zixin has finished refining the fishing rod." Ning Fan already had a few fishing rods in his hands. All of them were obtained from the Immortal Ascension Tower. However, he was still looking forward to the fishing rod that Tan Zixin refined. After all, her purple-grade fishing rod had always been the best in Tianyuan City. In reply to Senior, Miss Zixin has already finished refining the fishing rod. She has been waiting for you in the main hall for 2 days. Oh. I'm really flattered to be able to make Miss Zixin wait for me for 2 days. Ning Fan was slightly stunned. If he just came to collect the fishing rod, there was no need for Tan Zixin to specially wait for him at all. Is Tan Zixin trying to befriend me on behalf of the Primordial Palace, or does she have other intentions? Recalling the incident where he was tested in the Immortal Ascension Tower, Ning Fan felt that Tan Zixin must have some ulterior motive for waiting for him. He followed the 9 upper pavilions into the pavilion and walked all the way to the main hall. When they arrived at the outside of the hall, the 9 upper pavilions took their leave and allowed Ning Fan to enter alone. Ning Fan stepped into the main hall. At this moment, Tan Zixin's back was facing the door of the hall. She was holding the Separation Slayer sword in her hand and stroking the body of the sword carefully. Her eyes were filled with heartache. "You are a beauty, but why did you become a thief? What a good sword. I'm going to return it to him today." She seemed to be completely focused on the Separation Slayer sword. She did not even notice Ning Fan's arrival. Cough. "It turns out that I'm a thief in Miss Zixin's eyes." Ning Fan purposely let out a few dry coughs to remind Tan Zixin that he had arrived. He did not mind Tan Zixin's words of becoming a thief. He knew that she did not mean any harm. She just felt that he did not cherish the Separation Slayer sword enough. That was why she felt injustice for the sword. "Ah. You're here. You heard everything." I didn't mean it. I just casually said a few words." Tan Zixin cursed inwardly. She turned around and looked at Ning Fan awkwardly and nervously. After knowing that Ning Fan had the ability to save the old Yuan emperor, she was only thinking about how to befriend Ning Fan and beg him to save her grandpa. She didn't expect that Ning Fan would overhear her casual remark. She was really afraid that Ning Fan would feel discontented because of what she had just said. What if Ning Fan was unwilling to save her grandpa because of what she said? Wouldn't she regret it for the rest of her life? Ning Fan chose a seat and sat down. He held up the spiritual tea and took a sip casually. At the same time, he secretly used the mind-reading technique to pry into Tan Zixin's thoughts. With a glance, his expression didn't change, but his heart trembled slightly. Tan Zixin actually wants me to save her grandpa. Moreover, the person she wants to save is the old Yuan emperor, Tan Tianyan. Chapter 648. I heard that Miss Zixin has finished refining the purple-grade fishing rod. Ning Fan put down the mutton-fat jade cup that contained the spiritual tea and asked Tan Zixin with a smile. Seeing Ning Fan's usual smile, Tan Zixin heaved a sigh of relief. She knew that Ning Fan did not mind her nonsense. She returned the Separation Slayer sword to Ning Fan. He carefully stroked the sword and realized that the quality of the sword had improved by a lot. Tan Zixin seemed to cherish this sword very much. He had specially refined it, and its power had increased by quite a bit. I've troubled Miss Zixin. Ning Fan sighed. He had always been negligent in refining his natal magical treasure, but now, even the others could not stand it anymore and wanted to help him refine a magical treasure. As the owner of the magical treasure, he did feel guilty towards the Separation Slayer. It's just a small matter. Senior White, you don't have to take it to heart. Tan Zixin called out Senior White in a clear and melodious voice. The refinement of the purple-grade fishing rod has indeed been completed, but it is currently being nurtured in the spirit accumulating pool. It will take about the time it takes for an incense stick to burn before the spirit accumulating pool ends. I have a request that I would like to ask Senior White for help. I hope that Senior White can agree to my request. If Senior White agrees to my request, Purple Heart will agree to any conditions. The rims of Tan Zixin's eyes suddenly reddened. She actually leaned forward and knelt on the ground. Ning Fan's expression changed slightly. He immediately waved his sleeve to stop Tan Zixin from kneeling. He already knew what Tan Zixin wanted to ask of him. It was none other than to help the old primitive emperor heal. If it wasn't for the jade given by the old primitive emperor, Ning Fan definitely wouldn't have the opportunity to pry into the life and death situation inside the Immortal Ascension Tower. Just for the sake of the primitive emperor jade, Ning Fan would also help a group of old primitive emperors. There was no need for Tan Zixin to kneel and beg him. Besides, Ning Fan could tell with just a glance that Tan Zixin was an arrogant woman. However, she was willing to kneel down for the sake of saving her grandfather. This made Ning Fan view her in a different light. Miss Zixin, there's no need to be so courteous. Why don't you tell me what request you have? If it's not something difficult, then I won't refuse. The wind from the sleeve was as light as cotton, but when it blew in front of Zixin, it made her unable to kneel down again. Her eyes were slightly shocked. Obviously, she was shocked by Ning Fan's strength. Although her cultivation was not high, because of the events of the past, her body had already nurtured a trace of yin and yang energy. With the power of yin and yang protecting her body, even second or third heavenly layer void fragmentation realm old monsters would not be able to stop her from kneeling. Senior Bai's strength is indeed as powerful as the rumors say. When Zixin saw that Ning Fan insisted on not letting her kneel, she had no choice but to give up the thought of kneeling. She lowered her head slightly and let out a faint sigh. I wonder if Zixin can tell you a story before I make my request. This story is related to Purple Heart's request. Sure. Ning Fan nodded his head. Tan Zixin's bright eyes were hidden under her bangs. There was a hint of regret in her eyes as she spoke. That was 400 years ago. That year, a young lady from a great clan in the demon realm had just broken through to the nascent soul realm. She's obsessed with the art of refining and doesn't like to cultivate. One day, she heard that an ancient cultivator's ruin was unearthed in the northernmost abyss. In that ruin, there were many lost ancient secret refining techniques. She was warned by her father and grandfather that this place is dangerous and she shouldn't go there. However, she was young and frivolous. She didn't listen to them. She didn't believe them and insisted on trying her luck to find the ancient refining techniques. When the young lady arrived at the ruin, there were already countless cultivators who had begun their journey of treasure hunting. But soon after that, a sleeping poisonous beast suddenly broke out of its demon cocoon and woke up. That poisonous beast didn't have a high cultivation base and was killed by someone else. However, after it died, it released an extremely terrifying poisonous mist that killed all the cultivators in the ruin. The young lady was poisoned as well. She was supposed to be dead, but her grandfather came and rescued her corpse. Her grandfather had failed to become an immortal countless times and was forced to cultivate as a rogue demon. It wasn't easy for him to get the chance to become an immortal and was almost at the last step of becoming an immortal. However, in order to save his granddaughter, he didn't hesitate to destroy the Tao mark of life and death on his demon soul to revive the young lady who had just died not long ago. After that, he used a great divine ability to transfer all the poison in the young lady's body into his own body. 400 years have passed. The young lady's grandfather lost the chance to become an immortal and almost died from the torture of the poison. The one who should die is that young lady, not her grandfather. See nearby, if the young lady found out that there's a person who can save her grandfather's life, should she do everything she can to ask that person to help? What should she do to make that senior save her grandfather? Tan Zixin raised her head and looked at Ning Fan with sorrow. She knew that Ning Fan could understand this story. However, she didn't know if Ning Fan would agree to her request to save her grandfather. She regretted that she was young and ignorant and didn't listen to the advice of her elders. If Ning Fan didn't agree to help her, her grandfather would surely die and she would regret it for the rest of her life. Miss Zixin, you hope that I can save your grandfather, right? Ning Fan looked at Tan Zixin noncommittally. Yes. As long as Senior agrees to this request, Zixin will do everything, any request. I will do it. She bit her lips and said resolutely, like a heroine who was about to go to the execution ground. She had already decided that as long as Ning Fan was willing to save her grandfather, she would agree to any request. Whether it was pills, cultivation methods, heavenly ingredients and earthly treasures or even her body, no matter what request I make, you will agree to it. Ning Fan's gaze swept across Tan Zixin's delicate body. Tan Zixin's cheeks blushed. She gritted her teeth and lowered her head. Yes, then, I will boldly make a request to Miss Zixin. I don't like to see women crying. Can you give me a smile? Ning Fan retracted his gaze and smiled faintly. That scorching gaze of his was teasing Tan Zixin. Ah! Tan Zixin was stunned. Her expression was very cute. She was prepared to agree to any request, but Ning Fan gave her a request that she had never thought of. What did Senior say? I don't think I heard it clearly, I said, can you smile at me? Am I that scary? Why do all of you have such an expression when you see me? Ning Fan was speechless. He began to regret borrowing Bai Mu's identity. Hua Yu thought that he was a peerless nightmare devil who wanted to jump into the fire pit to save her sisters. Tan Zixin also thought that he was an unbearable person and was prepared to sacrifice herself at any time. Although Ning Fan was not a kind person, he did not seem to have bullied that girl whom he had no enmity with, right? Did he look like a bully who took advantage of others? Smile. What smile? Tan Zixin blinked her eyes, still unable to react. Forget it. Pretend that I didn't say anything. I will agree to help you save the old Yuan Emperor. However, I don't have much confidence in saving him. As for the specifics, I will have to see the condition of his body with my own eyes to know. Ning Fan did not continue to tease Tan Zixin, nor did he make any unreasonable request. He did not lack spirit-severing cauldrons, so he did not need Tan Zixin to sacrifice herself. Even though he lacked origin-clear pills, he would not use this matter to ask for it. Saving Tan Tianyan was to return the favor to him. Ning Fan would not ask for anything else. Of course, Ning Fan would buy origin-clear pills from Palace Yuan after the matter was resolved. He would not owe Palace Yuan any favors anymore. It was easy to owe a favor but difficult to return it. Senior, are you really willing to save me? Thank you so much, Senior. Senior is truly the warmest and kind-hearted person I've ever met. We've only met once, yet you're willing to help me. You're truly a good person. Slap. A big good person card was thrown on Ning Fan's face. Just a second ago, she called Ning Fan a thief. In the next second, she became a good person. Tan Zixin smiled through her tears and rushed to Ning Fan's front happily like a cheerful purple cuckoo. Under the purple and white striped headscarf, her beautiful face was indescribably beautiful when she smiled. Indeed, women were the most beautiful when they smiled. When a woman cries or throws a tantrum, she would be like a ferocious beast of the desolate era. Am I a good person? Ning Fan touched his chin. He really could not tell which part of him looked like a good person. He slowly rose to his feet and said to Tan Zixin. Let's take a look at the fishing rod first. After that, I will accompany you to see the old Yuan Emperor and treat his injuries. Is that okay? Yes. Of course. Zixin will bring Senior to the spiritual pool to get the fishing rod. Senior, please follow me. Ning Fan followed Tan Zixin out of the main hall and walked towards the weapon refinement workshop. Then, they passed through the workshop and arrived at Tan Zixin's personal refining room. The underground of this refining room had been hollowed out by someone. A massive spiritual pool was built there. If ordinary magic treasures were to gather their spirit here, there would be a certain chance for them to give birth to a weapon spirit. She actually nurtured a weapon spirit for a mere fishing rod. It was enough to show that she had put a lot of effort into refining this fishing rod. Along the way, Tan Zixin told Ning Fan about the extraordinary features of this fishing rod. This fishing rod was different from ordinary fishing rods. It was not casually refined by her. Ordinary purple-grade fishing rods could only be used tens of times. Because they were refined in a rush, their durability was not high. After all, ordinary old monsters would only have 1 or 2 chances to fish dragons in the dragon fishing convention. They would not wear out a fishing rod like this. However, Ning Fan's fishing rod was different from ordinary fishing rods. It was a semi-finished fishing rod that Tan Zixin had spent 400 years to refine. It was unknown how many heavenly materials and earthly treasures she had used in the entire refining process. The cost was at least tens of billions of immortal jade. There was no limit to the durability of this fishing rod. It was a mid-grade immortal void realm magic treasure named Taigong Fishing. During these few days, Tan Zixin had completed the last step of refining this treasure. Not only could this treasure be used to fish dragons, but it could also be used as a magic treasure to fight against humans. It was especially effective against demon cultivators with dragon bloodline. Dragon cultivators below the life immortal realm could almost be captured alive with a single strike. There was an immortal grade spirit iron attached to this treasure. Its ability was called Dragon Subduing. That piece of spirit iron was the only one in the entire demon world. It was extremely precious, but Tan Zixin managed to find it. It was difficult to estimate the value of that piece of spirit iron using immortal jade. Thus, it was not included in the cost. Otherwise, the cost of this Taigong fishing would be frighteningly high. According to rumors, a piece of immortal-grade, dragon-subduing, spirit iron in the four heavens was priced at around 2 million Dao crystals. It was equivalent to 10 trillion immortal jade in the lower world. Even though it was expensive, once the dragon-subduing spirit iron appears, life immortal realm and true immortal realm old monsters would certainly fight for it. Most of those who fought for it were prepared for the realm war. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with astonishment. Even though he had high expectations for the fishing rod that Tan Zixin refined, he did not expect her to be so generous as to attach the dragon-subduing ability to the fishing rod. With this fishing rod, Ning Fan could fish any ferocious dragon in the dragon fishing convention without any pressure. If he encounters a demon cultivator with dragon bloodline in the future, he would only need to use the fishing rod to subdue and capture the enemy alive. Even if the enemy was a rogue demon, it would still be futile. Tan Zixin's original purpose of making such a sharp fishing rod for Ning Fan was to catch the legendary Yin dragon and Yang dragon. We've arrived at the spiritual pool. Tan Zixin led Ning Fan to the entrance of the underground forbidden area and went all the way down. There was a stone chamber 1 million zhang below the ground. The walls of the stone chamber were filled with a type of spiritual or called Dao spirit stone, which gave off an extremely dense spiritual qi. In the middle of the stone chamber was a gigantic stone pond. The water in the pond was pure golden in color and there was a seal outside the pond. A purplish golden fishing rod was submerged in the water of the stone pond. It was 24 zhang long and the patterns of the 24 constellations were engraved on it. Within the fishing rod, there was a spiritual sense that was on the verge of bursting out and it was gradually rising. The fishing rod was glowing with a faint light. Although the light seemed weak, it was enough to suppress any dragon cultivator below the life immortal realm. So this treasure is called the Tai Gong fishing rod. What a strong dragon subduing qi! Ning Fan praised. When he saw this fishing rod, he was almost eager to try it out. He wanted to use this fishing rod to catch a demonic dragon. The artifact spirit of this Tai Gong fishing rod seems to have been successfully molded. Senior, please wait for a moment. Let Zixin open the seal of the spiritual pool and take out the fishing rod. Tan Zixin patted the brocade pouch on her waist and took out a golden hammer that was even bigger than her body as if she was performing a magic trick. Then, she smashed it at the seal of the spiritual pool. The grade of the golden hammer was not high but it had an immortal void-grade spiritual iron attached to it. Its ability was called seal breaking, which specialized in breaking all kinds of seals. Even though the seal was at the grade of an immortal void-grade formation, it was still broken by the golden hammer. Tan Zixin kept the golden hammer and let out a soft breath. Then, she smiled at Ning Fan and said, Zixin has embarrassed myself in front of Senior, you're flattering me. Ning Fan did not know how to laugh. Such a delicate young lady actually used a giant hammer to break the seal of an immortal void-grade formation. It would only shock people but not make them laugh. Tan Zixin approached the spiritual pool and pretended to take the fishing rod. All of a sudden, an unforeseen event happened. An extremely cold and sharp aura force suddenly spread out from the fishing rod. Undisguised killing intent suddenly locked onto Tan Zixin. What a ferocious magic treasure! Ning Fan's expression changed. Before Tan Zixin could react, he had already taken a step forward. He held her slender waist and retreated. In the spiritual pool, the purple-grade fishing rod had already transformed into a purplish-golden giant bird with nascent wings. Its eyes were ferocious as it dashed towards Tan Zixin. Chapter 649. Tan Zixin's cheeks instantly turned red when Ning Fan hugged her waist tightly. Only then did she see that the Tai Gong fish, which had transformed into an artifact spirit, had transformed into a demon and wanted to kill her. Knowing that Ning Fan was trying to save her, Tan Zixin did not break free from Ning Fan's embrace. She also did not blame Ning Fan for being frivolous. Instead, she was very grateful for his help. If it wasn't for Ning Fan who saved her, she would most likely have died under the surprise attack of Tai Gongyu. Ning Fan retreated continuously. The purple-golden primordial wings that were transformed from the Tai Gong fish also spread its wings and chased after him. Its speed was not inferior to Ning Fan's at all. In fact, it was even slightly faster than him. In the blink of an eye, he was about to be clawed by the purple-gold origin wings. Suddenly, Ning Fan stopped in his tracks. His left eye emitted a vast demonic aura. Mere vile spawn, you don't know when to back off. You're courting death. Illusion. The second monster star in his left eye was activated on its own. In an instant, layers of illusions appeared and bewitched the purple-gold wings. Illusory techniques were practically useless against cultivators with tenacious Dao hearts, but they were effective against an artifact spirit with low intelligence. When the purple-gold wings met Ning Fan's eyes, they immediately fell into layers of illusions. Their gigantic bodies fell from the sky and fell to the ground. Their eyes were filled with fear. In the illusion, it saw countless ferocious demons comparable to life immortals and true immortals chasing after it. It didn't know how to break the illusion. Its intelligence was too low. It was just a spirit, show your true form. Holding Tan Zixin in his arms, Ning Fan leaped into the sky and stomped on the ground. A kick attack that was comparable to the first sky of Nirvana realm directly shattered the purple-gold origin wing's spiritual body. It returned to the form of a magical treasure and turned back into a fishing rod. Ning Fan landed on the ground and kept the fishing rod in his hand. Then, he said with a cold and stern look in his eyes. From today onwards, I am your master. If you dare to betray your master, I will destroy your treasure. Seal. Without giving the Tai Gong fish a chance to reject him, Ning Fan let go of Tan Zixin and directly bit his finger. He dripped a drop of his blood onto the fishing rod, turning it into a rune. Then, he planted the rune on the fishing rod and completed the process of recognizing it as its master, turning it into his natal magic treasure. This treasure was mixed with some immemorial star iron and could barely be considered a 2-star divine weapon. It also had the power to suppress dragons. As a natal Dharma treasure, it could only be strong. Thank you for saving me, Senior, Tan Zixin thanked him with a blush. Ning Fan attacked in a domineering manner. Within a few breaths, he subdued the spirit of Tai Gong's fishing artifact. His powerful means made Tan Zixin raise her eyebrows. This was the artifact spirit of an intermediate immortal void-grade magic treasure. Even some Shatter 5 old monsters would not be able to subdue it. The soft waist that was touched by Ning Fan could still feel the residual warmth of his arm. Tan Zixin's heart raced as she recalled the earlier scene. She was slightly dazed. This was the first time she had been hugged by a man. It's just a small matter, there's no need to thank me. Now that this treasure has been subdued, the matter in my heart has been resolved. Let me immediately follow Miss Zixin to meet the old primitive emperor. Tan Zixin, who was in a daze like a wooden puppet, did not hear Ning Fan's words. Ning Fan activated his mind-reading technique speechlessly to pry into Tan Zixin's thoughts. He discovered that Tan Zixin's mind was constantly thinking about being hugged by someone. Her heart was already in a mess, and she was in a daze. After a while, Tan Zixin finally recovered from her bewitched state. She blushed even more. What did Senior just say? She asked in confusion. Let's go and meet the old primitive emperor now. All right. Do you want to walk by yourself or do you want me to carry you? Ning Fan teased. I will walk by myself. Senior, please follow me. Her face became even redder. With a flash of light, she brought Ning Fan away from the profound spirit pool and flew towards the main hall of the Yuan Palace. She did not want to be carried by Ning Fan again, probably. Tan Zixin's expression gradually returned to normal as they flew towards the Yuan Palace. She buried the memory of her blushing face and heartbeat deep in her heart. She did not forget that treating her grandpa's injuries was the most important matter at this moment. She should not let her imagination run wild like this. Ning Fan slowed down his speed and followed behind Tan Zixin at a moderate speed. The charming moment just now had already been thrown to the back of Ning Fan's mind. His mind was thinking about Tan Tianyan's injuries. A poison that could injure Tan Tianyan must be very powerful. He wondered if he could neutralize this poison and successfully treat Tan Tianyan's injuries. Greetings, Miss. Greetings, old ancestor Bai Mu. The cultivators guarding the entrance of the Yuan Palace saw Tan Zixin coming from afar. They immediately took a few steps forward and cupped their fists to greet her. When they saw Ning Fan standing behind Tan Zixin, all of them were surprised. Didn't Miss never talk to any man? Why would she travel with old ancestor Bai Mu? Moreover, that person was still in the Yuan Palace today. It seemed inappropriate for Miss to travel with a man like this. That person was here for Miss's marriage. This was already the third time he had proposed. If that person saw Miss traveling with old ancestor Bai Mu, he would definitely be furious. Old ancestor Bai Mu might be powerful, but that person's background was even more powerful. Dispense with the formalities. I want to see my grandpa. Is he in the palace? Tan Zixin landed on the ground and asked the guard indifferently. Replying to Miss, old Yuan Emperor is not out. He is meditating in the Yang Xian Palace. Alright, I got it. You guys can leave now. I want to bring Senior Bai Mu to see my grandpa. Inform the entire palace that no one is allowed to disturb him in the Yang Xian Palace. Yes. Miss, please wait. This subordinate has another matter to report. What is it? That upper demon has come to propose again. He is waiting for you in the Heaven Fusion Palace, hoping to meet you. The guard said with a hint of fear. Why is he here again? I don't want to see him. Tan Zixin frowned slightly. The one who came to propose was an upper demon at the third heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. He was a cultivator from the demon spirit land of the upper world. He was born in the Yellow Dragon clan, a branch of the True Dragon clan. 200 years ago, when he descended to the demon world, he had met Tan Zixin once. Normally, this person would not pay attention to Tan Zixin. However, when he saw that Tan Zixin's body contained a trace of yin-yang power, he immediately paid attention to her. In the past 200 years, he had proposed to Tan Zixin twice. Both of them were rejected by her. At that time, Tan Zixin regretted that the old Yuan Emperor was injured and asked this person if he could save the old Yuan Emperor. If this person was willing to help, she would consider marrying him. However, that person said that the old Yuan Emperor's injuries were too severe. Only the middle-grade 8th revolution pill of the Yellow Dragon clan could save him. The price was too great. He would not spend such a precious pill for a mere rogue demon from the lower world. This person actually said that my grandfather is a mere rogue demon from the lower world. Even if I die, I will not marry him. Tan Zixin's eyes were filled with disgust. It was rare for her to hate someone. However, that demon cultivator from the upper world was just too annoying. A demon cultivator from the upper world of the Yellow Dragon clan? Ning Fan used his mind-reading technique and saw through Tan Zixin's thoughts. Even though he had seen through her thoughts, he did not ask any questions. To Ning Fan, Tan Zixin's marriage did not have much to do with him. He also had no right to comment on it. The two of them stepped into the primordial palace and directly headed towards the heart-nurturing palace. When the cultivators they met along the way saw Tan Zixin and Ning Fan traveling together, all of them wore surprised expressions. Miss Zixin really doesn't like Senior Cheng Huang. Could it be that the one she likes is old ancestor Bai Mu? Only when they arrived at the Golden Lotus Pond outside the heart-nurturing palace did they stop talking. Because the Golden Lotus Pond was very close to the heart-nurturing palace, everyone had already left after Tan Zixin gave the order. Moreover, a restrictive formation was activated in this place, covering the few courtyards around the heart-nurturing palace. Outsiders would not be able to sense what was happening here at all. The discussions along the way still could not escape from Tan Zixin and Ning Fan's ears. Ning Fan's expression remained the same while Tan Zixin's cheeks turned slightly red. She explained to Ning Fan with some embarrassment. The cultivators of my primordial palace don't know what's good and bad about Senior. Please forgive us. Who is Cheng Huang? Ning Fan deliberately asked with a smile. He is a person who thinks highly of himself. He is not comparable to Senior. Senior is a good person. He isn't. Tan Zixin's expression was a little unnatural. She did not know why, but she did not want Ning Fan to know that someone had proposed to her before. Perhaps she was afraid that Ning Fan would be angry and ignore her because of this matter. I'm not a good person, Ning Fan could not help but laugh. Just when he was about to say something, his eyes suddenly narrowed and he stopped walking. Tan Zixin also stopped walking because a yellow-robed figure was walking towards them from the other side of the Golden Lotus Pond. Miss Zixin, what do you mean? In what way can this dragon's son be inferior to this ant? It was a handsome young man in yellow robes. His cultivation base was at the third heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. However, it seemed like he had just broken through to the next level not long ago. His cultivation base had yet to stabilize. The corner of his mouth hung a cold smile. His eyes were as sharp and gloomy as an eagle's. His name was Cheng Huang. He was born in the Yellow Dragon clan. He was one of the 12 dignified dragon sons of the current generation. The Yellow Dragon clan was the weakest branch among the 10,000 true dragon clans. The strongest among them was just a life-immortal realm expert at the human profound realm. In the demon spirit land of the upper world, the Yellow Dragon clan was nothing. However, in the lower world, the Yellow Dragon clan was considered as a colossus. What he fancied about Tan Zixin was the trace of yin and yang power within her body. It was not her body. There was a secret technique in the Yellow Dragon clan that could only be cultivated by a woman who possessed yin and yang power at the same time. Once the technique is successfully cultivated, the cultivator would have the chance to become an immortal in this lifetime. He would even have a chance to cross the true bridge and become a true immortal. Even though he had been rejected by Tan Zixin twice, he was not discouraged. This time, he came here for the third time. He brought a high-grade 7th revolution pill with him. This pill was not enough to cure the old Yuan emperor. However, it could alleviate his injuries and help him live for another 100 years. He finally realized that the reason why he had failed twice was because he did not understand Tan Zixin's thoughts. Tan Zixin respected her grandfather the most. Yet, he had spoken rudely to her. Of course, he had angered her. This time, he had learned his lesson. He was still reluctant to use the precious pill of his clan to save a rogue demon from the lower world. However, he also showed some sincerity in an attempt to move Tan Zixin's heart. He did not expect to be rejected by the old Yuan emperor when he arrived at the Origin Palace this time. Then, he saw Tan Zixin walking with another man. What an ungrateful woman! Cheng Huang's heart was filled with coldness. If it wasn't because Tan Zixin possessed a trace of yin and yang power, why would he lower his status and pursue a female cultivator from the lower world who had yet to attain the void refinement realm? There's nothing about you that you can't compare to him. I still have important matters to attend to right now. I need to bring an important guest to meet my grandfather. I won't entertain Senior Cheng Huang. Tan Zixin winked at Ning Fan, signaling him to ignore Cheng Huang and go straight to the Cultivation Heart Palace to meet the old Yuan Emperor. Just as the two of them wanted to walk past Cheng Huang blocked their way. Is he the important guest of your Origin Palace? By Mu, is it? I recognize you and I've also heard of your great name. Why? Didn't you bring that useless Tan Longzi with you this time? Cheng Huang sneered disdainfully. Tan Longzi had the bloodline of the Yellow Dragon. Thus, he could be considered as a member of the Yellow Dragon clan. However, Tan Longzi did not have the pride of the Yellow Dragon clan. Instead, he acknowledged Ning Fan as his master. Of course, Cheng Huang looked down on him. Ning Fan's eyes turned slightly cold. Since when did his servant become a joke to an outsider? Yes. He's Senior Bai Mu. He's my grandfather's important guest. Please step aside. Tan Zixin's pretty face turned slightly cold. Is he really Bai Mu? Cheng Huang suddenly sneered and looked at Ning Fan with a hint of mockery. Several thousand years ago, he had taken in a demon servant who possessed the green yang physique. With his help, that person had broken through to the second destruction realm by relying on the seven yang physique. That person told him that the Bai Mu in front of him was a fake. That person even told him that the Bai Mu in front of him had the star stone of the White Feather clan. Ning Fan's eyes turned grim again. This Cheng Huang seemed to be very sure that he was not Bai Mu. Bai Mu, you have Tan Longzi as your servant and the support of the Yuan Palace. Everyone in the world is afraid of you, but I'm not afraid of you at all. Do you know that you have offended me in two ways? If you can do these two things, I can let bygones be bygones. Otherwise, I'll make sure your blood splatters all over this place and you die in the Golden Lotus Pond. Two things. Ning Fan sneered. First, stay away from Tan Zixin. Second, hand over the star stone of the White Feather clan. If you can do these two things, I'll show you mercy and pardon you. Otherwise, you must die today. Cheng Huang, you've gone too far. What does it have to do with you whether he stays away from me or not? What right do you have to interfere? The star stone of the White Feather clan originally belongs to the White Feather clan. It belongs to Bai Mu. What right do you have to seize his possession? Tan Zixin defended Ning Fan. Why? Because he's not Bai Mu. Because he's just an ant in the lower world. He can't afford to offend me. Cheng Huang sneered. Ning Fan did not say anything else. The cold light in his eyes gradually faded. Even though the cold light disappeared, his killing intent became even more terrifying. Cheng Huang, is it? Do you know that you have also offended me in two ways? First, my servant is not someone you can insult. Second, my treasures are not something you can covet. I'll give you 3 breaths. If you leave now, I can spare your life. Ning Fan's black eyes were like a bottomless devil abyss. He looked at Cheng Huang as if he was looking at a dead man. Hee. You actually dare to threaten me with your first heavenly layer void fragmentation realm cultivation base. Interesting. Rumor has it that you single-handedly defeated everyone at the second heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm and even defeated old monster Dong Lin who was at the third heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. Unfortunately, I don't believe such lies at all. 1. I don't believe that your cultivation base is that high. I also don't believe that you dare to kill me. My Yellow Dragon clan is a dignified clan in the upper world. It's not something you can afford to offend. 2. Bai Mu. No. Fake Bai Mu. Why are you putting on airs here? You don't dare to kill me at all. If you know what's good for you, hand over the star stones and stay away from Tan Zixin. If you don't, I'll definitely kill you like a dog. 3. Before Cheng Huang could finish his nonsense, Ning Fan's killing intent was already triggered. At this moment, his eyes shone with bloody light. A terrifying baleful qi suddenly enveloped the entire Golden Lotus Pond. The baleful qi avoided Tan Zixin but it did not avoid Cheng Huang. The moment Cheng Huang sensed the baleful qi, his expression changed drastically. What a strong baleful qi! Among this baleful qi, there is even the baleful qi formed by the deaths of 7th and 8th fragmentation realm cultivators. How is this possible? You've killed 7th and 8th fragmentation realm cultivators before. How absurd. Ning Fan did not say much. He just took a step forward and shattered the void with a flick of his finger, absorbing all the souls in the void. His aura force rose steadily. With just a single step, it rose to the 3rd heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. Moreover, his aura force was 2 times stronger than an ordinary 3rd fragmentation realm cultivator. This was the benefit brought by the advancement of his spirit sense. With the improvement of his spirit sense, the strength of his sense soul incarnation would greatly increase along with Ning Fan's combat power. Ning Fan, who had turned into black robes, seemed to have become a domineering and cruel devil lord. If the Yellow Dragon clan was slightly stronger, Ning Fan would still be a little fearful. Unfortunately, the Yellow Dragon clan was just a small clan in the upper world. There was nothing to be afraid of at all. The threat it posed was far less than the White Devil sect and the Jade Dao sect behind He Shishio. Ning Fan did not waste any time. He directly took a step forward and his body turned into black shadows that dispersed. The moment he displayed this ability, Cheng Huang felt a sense of imminent death. Without any hesitation, he retreated and summoned his dark yellow dragon scales to protect his body. At the next moment, the black shadows suddenly appeared in all directions like blades and swords, charging at him. What kind of ability is this? This is bad. My dragon scales aren't strong enough to defend against this technique. Just as this thought flashed across his mind, the dragon scales on the surface of his body had already turned into powder and disappeared. His physical body was unreservedly attacked by the Black Tempest soul-splitting technique. Cheng Huang had just broken through to the 3rd break realm and his cultivation base had yet to stabilize. His strength was far weaker than old monster Dong Lin. On the other hand, Ning Fan's spirit sense and strength had increased tremendously. He was much stronger than when he defeated old monster Dong Lin. Amidst the layers of black shadows, Cheng Huang suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream. His physical body was continuously shredded into minced meat by the black shadows. He was afraid. He was terrified. He did not expect that there would be an ant in the demon world and the lower world who would dare to attack him. How dare he offend the Yellow Dragon clan? Bai Mu, stop now. If you dare to kill me, there will no longer be a place for you in the demon world. Cheng Huang threatened Ning Fan while trembling in fear. His threat was insignificant to Ning Fan because he did not need to establish a foothold in the demon world at all. Destroy. The black shadows condensed again and Ning Fan appeared. Cheng Huang let out a blood-curdling scream and turned into a pile of minced meat, dirtying the beautiful golden lotus pond. Ning Fan kept Cheng Huang's storage pouch and scanned through it briefly. Then, he frowned slightly. There was nothing inside that could interest him. After dispersing his black robes and dispelling the soul-extracting technique, Ning Fan said indifferently to Tan Zixin. Let's go and meet the old Yuan Emperor. Ning Fan had killed countless people along the way. This Cheng Huang was just one of them that was not worth mentioning. You'll get into trouble if you kill him. The upper world has an order that life immortals are not allowed to descend to the demon world, including the old ancestor of the Yellow Dragon clan. However, there are a few rogue demons in the Yellow Dragon clan who can descend to the demon world to avenge this person. At this moment, Tan Zixin was not concerned about Cheng Huang's death but Ning Fan's safety. This was something that even she herself did not realize. I know. That's why I killed him. The rogue demons of the Yellow Dragon clan, huh? Have you forgotten that you became my great-grandfather Fish? That's the dragon suppressing supreme treasure. I'll kill as many rogue demons as you come. Why you? Tan Zixin was speechless. Other than Ning Fan, none of the demon cultivators in the lower world dared to look down on the large clans of the upper world. It seemed like the fishing rod she made for Ning Fan was going to become his weapon to destroy the Yellow Dragon clan. Let's get someone to clean up the Golden Lotus Pond. Senior Tan. Ning Fan suddenly said to a place where there was no one else around. Tan Tianyen was stunned. Then, he slowly revealed himself. He had actually arrived at the Golden Lotus Pond a long time ago. Tan Tianyen had always disliked those large clans of the upper world who thought highly of themselves. Initially, he wanted to help Ning Fan when he was in danger by blocking Cheng Huang's attack. However, he did not expect that Ning Fan would take Cheng Huang's life in just a single exchange. I'll naturally send someone to clean up this place. I'll also try my best to cover up the fact that you killed Cheng Huang. However, do you know that the Yellow Dragon clan has a secret technique? If a member of the Yellow Dragon clan kills someone, as long as they recite the name of the murderer in their heart before they die, the name will be transmitted to the clan. Currently, most of the members of the Yellow Dragon clan already know that there's a person called Bai Mu in the lower world who killed one of their 12 dragon sons. Perhaps there will be void fragmentation realm experts or even rogue demons who will descend to the lower world to capture you. I wonder if Cheng Huang ever called out your name when he died. The old primitive emperor showed a hint of concern. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Ning Fan said disapprovingly. Even if Cheng Huang did call out something, it would probably be Bai Mu. Since his true name was not exposed, no one in the Yellow Dragon clan would know that the murderer was the divine sovereign of the Rain World. Senior, thank you for lending me the jade. I've gained a lot of Tao comprehension in the Immortal Ascension Tower. Today, I came here to take a look at Senior's injuries and find a way to solve them. That way, I can repay Senior for lending me the jade. Ning Fan patted his storage pouch and took out the primitive emperor jade, returning it to the old primitive emperor. His eyes swept across the old primitive emperor's body and his expression became slightly grim. The old primitive emperor's injuries were much more serious than what he had expected. The Yellow Dragon clan in the demon spirit land of the upper world. Inside the clan temple, one of the life plates of the 12 dragon sons suddenly broke. The broken life plate belonged to Cheng Huang. How did Cheng Huang die? Who can tell me what's going on? One of the rogue demons guarding the clan temple, the Yellow Dragon clan, was enraged. After all, Cheng Huang was his junior. Who was so audacious to kill his descendant? Bai Mu. Which bastard is Bai Mu? I want to find him and tear him into pieces. Chapter 650. The old primitive emperor shook his body and transformed into Cheng Huang. He walked out of the palace of Yuan cursing and flew away from Tianyuan City. No one knew where he went. Many people in Heaven Origin City who knew Cheng Huang's identity had witnessed Cheng Huang leaving Heaven Origin City. The old primitive emperor was moving the crime scene of Cheng Huang's murder. Ning Fan did not say much. He sat opposite Tan Zixin in the Yang Xian Palace Hall, waiting for the old Yuan emperor to return. Now, do you still think that I'm a good person? Ning Fan asked Tan Zixin with a smile. I don't know. Tan Zixin shook her head. She was still shaken by the scene just now. It was impossible for her not to be shocked that a cultivator from the upper realm had died in front of her. However, she was too concerned about Ning Fan's safety that she forgot to be shocked. Ning Fan was a devil lord. If he has the intention to kill, he would not show any mercy at all and he would not have any scruples. As for her, could she be considered as Ning Fan's accomplice? I don't know. However, when Ning Fan wields the Taigong fishing rod and kills a dragon in 10 steps in the future, she would certainly be his accomplice. After all, that was the magical treasure that she refined. That Taigong fishing is for you to fish dragons. Do you understand? Tan Zixin said seriously. Yes, I understand. The Great Elder fishing technique can catch dragons and also slay them. It can even eliminate the yellow dragon that has gone too far. I really look forward to a great battle to test the power of the Great Elder fishing technique. Ning Fan said seriously. That's not what I meant. Sigh, you don't understand. Tan Zixin was a little depressed. She really wanted to say to Tai Gongyu, you are a beautiful man, but why did you become a thief? The Tai Gong fish was supposed to be a fishing rod used to catch dragons. However, when it fell into Ning Fan's hands, it would one day become a dragon-slaying supreme treasure. Hee, I've made you wait for a long time. This old man is back. After a long time, the old Yuan emperor returned to the Yangxin palace with a flash of light. Today, the old primitive emperor didn't wear a fisherman's attire. Instead, he wore an old grey robe, which was very simple. He walked into the Yang Xian palace step by step. Every step he took would cause his primordial spirit to tremble slightly. The trembling came from the life and death Tao patterns on his Yuan Shen. The old primitive emperor had almost seen through life and death. Every step he took was accompanied by life and death. The reason why he was stronger than Ning Fan's rogue devil was because of the Tao of life and death. Currently, the rogue devil's Tao of life and death was almost non-existent. Ning Fan could see through this mystery. However, those who have yet to attain the Tao unification realm with their primordial spirits would definitely not be able to see through it. Tan Zixin, of course, could not see through it. She could not feel the life and death aura of the old primitive emperor at this moment. Senior Tan is indeed a person who has taken half a step into the immortal path. You can decide life and death with just a single step. It's really impressive. Ning Fan praised and rose to his feet. This old man has lived for so many years, so it's only natural that my comprehension of the Tao of life and death is deeper than yours. With little friend's aptitude, it's only a matter of time before you surpass this old man in 10,000 years. Among this generation's heroes, you are the most outstanding person this old man has ever seen. Especially in terms of temperament, this old man is quite congenial with you. That Cheng Huang, well done, well done. If I was like you, with few ties in the demon realm, I would have killed Cheng Huang long ago. The son of the Yellow Dragon clan is nothing to me. If it wasn't because of my injuries, I would have attained the life immortal realm long ago. Even the clan leader of the Yellow Dragon clan would be afraid of me. The old primitive emperor's eyes flashed with a hint of heroic spirit. However, when he thought of his injuries and realized that he probably had no hope of attaining the immortal realm, he sighed and shook his head. Grandpa. Don't worry. Your injuries can definitely be cured. Senior Bai will definitely be able to cure you. Tan Zixin's eyes turned red all of a sudden. Silly girl. I have already seen through life and death. Why would I be obsessed with my own life and death? I have no regrets if I can save your life. I'm just worried that the Yuan Palace will decline after my death. The old primitive emperor's expression suddenly turned serious and said to Tan Zixin. Zixin, you can go out first. I have something to tell little friend Bai. Yes. Tan Zixin gave Ning Fan a pleading look. Her eyes were begging him to treat the old primitive emperor's injuries with all his might. Ning Fan gave her a reassuring look. Then, she walked out of the Yang Xian palace and stood quietly outside the palace, waiting for the result of the treatment. Senior, do you have something to tell me? Is it related to Miss Zixin? Ning Fan asked with a smile. Hee. Little friend, what do you think of my granddaughter? The old primitive emperor smiled meaningfully. She's very good. However, we might not be fated. Senior should know that I'm a cultivator of the rain world and my main cultivation isn't demon. Ning Fan said without changing his expression. Sigh. Little friend, don't you plan to ascend to the demon spirit land in the future? The old primitive emperor revealed a regretful look. In fact, he did not have much confidence in Ning Fan's ability to cure his injuries. However, he fancied Ning Fan's strength and character. Thus, he wanted to entrust the entire Yuan Palace to Ning Fan before he dies. If Ning Fan ascends to the demon spirit land in the future, he would also help the juniors of the Yuan Palace. At least, he could help Zixin ascend. However, Ning Fan's intention was also very clear. He was a cultivator of the Rain World. He would return to the Rain World eventually and would not stay in the demon world for a long time. His main cultivation wasn't demon. Thus, he probably wouldn't choose the demon spirit land in the upper world for his ascension. Ning Fan could not agree to the old primitive emperor's request. Let me examine Senior's injuries first. Senior, please take a seat. Ning Fan sat down and stretched out two of his fingers. His fingers were wrapped with black medicine soul power and he placed them on the old primitive emperor's wrist. The black medicine soul seeped into the old primitive emperor's body and examined his internal injuries. Ning Fan's eyes became darker and darker while the old primitive emperor was shocked. This young man is actually a high-grade 6th Revolution Pill Master. High-grade 6th Revolution Pill Masters were much rarer than ordinary Void Fragmentation Realm old monsters. The old primitive emperor did not expect Ning Fan to be able to raise his cultivation base and pill refinement mastery to an extremely high level within his limited bone age. Little friend, may I ask how are my injuries? The old primitive emperor's eyes showed a rare hint of admiration. It's very serious. The yin and yang of your demon soul have separated and can't be combined. Even if you try to combine them forcefully, there will still be some flaws left behind. These flaws are enough to make Senior unable to become an immortal in this life. However, you won't have to worry about your life. Ning Fan said with a frown. He had a way to use the yin-yang locket's yin-yang harmonizing force to combine the old primitive emperor's demon soul forcefully. However, if he tries to do it forcefully, even though the old primitive emperor would be able to keep his life, it would be difficult for him to become an immortal ever again because of the flaws in his demon soul. If he has another yin-yang treasure, he can temporarily lend it to the old primitive emperor to repair the flaws in his demon soul. Then, all the hidden dangers would be solved. The yin-yang locket was an immortal emperor's treasure. It should not be shown to others easily. If he can fish up the yin dragon and yang dragon and obtain the yin-yang dragon pearl, Ning Fan's eyes flickered as if he had a plan. The old primitive emperor, on the other hand, found it hard to believe. What did he just hear? Ning Fan actually said that he had a way to help him combine his demon soul. It could help him keep his life. Even if he forcefully combines his demon soul, it would leave a flaw in his demon soul which would make it impossible for him to become an immortal. However, to the old primitive emperor who was supposed to die, being able to keep his life was already worth it. Little friend, do you really have a way to help me combine my demon soul? The old primitive emperor's eyes were unprecedentedly solemn. If he was still alive, he would naturally take care of the Palace of Origin and there would be no need to trouble Ning Fan. It's true. If I can fish up the yin-yang dragon pearl in the dragon fishing convention, it would be easy for me to completely restore Senior's demon soul. Of course, I don't have absolute confidence in fishing up the yin dragon and yang dragon. In short, I'll arrange the matter of treating Senior's injuries after the dragon fishing convention. If I really can't fish up the yin-yang dragon pearl, I will have to use a forceful method to make Senior's demon soul combine with his. Otherwise, if this drags on for another 100 years, Senior's life will be in danger. As soon as Ning Fan finished speaking, he raised his palm. A black devil flame rose from the center of his palm. The moment the devil flame separated, it actually separated into cold chi and flame. Then, with a thought from Ning Fan, the ice and flame fused together again. The method he displayed was to harmonize the two opposite extremes of yin and yang. This was to convince the old primitive emperor that he did not lie and that he had a way to save the old primitive emperor. After listening to Ning Fan's words and seeing the ice and flame separating and fusing in his palm, the old primitive emperor went silent for a while. Then, he suddenly burst into laughter. His laughter was extremely carefree. This old man firmly believes that little friend can help me save my life. As for the matter of fishing up the yin-yang dragon pearl and completely restoring my demon soul, it gave me quite a pleasant surprise. It turns out that I still have a chance to become an immortal. Hee hee. Let's do as little friend said. Treat my injuries after the dragon fishing convention. The old primitive emperor believed every word that Ning Fan said. However, he did not have the confidence that Ning Fan could fish up the yin-yang dragon pearl. No one had fished up the yin-yang dragon pearl for millions of years. Ning Fan probably wouldn't be able to fish it up either, forget it. It doesn't matter even if I don't have the yin-yang dragon pearl. I'm already lucky to be able to keep my life. Senior, please rest well and recover some of your vitality. After the convention, I will come and treat Senior's injuries again. I still need to make some preparations for the dragon fishing convention. I'll take my leave first. I won't send you off. I will give an order to little friend. If little friend needs anything, you can directly go to the treasury of the Yuan Palace to get it. No one will stop you. Ning Fan walked out of the Yang Xian Palace and felt slightly relieved. Being able to help the old primitive emperor could be considered as repaying the favor of the primitive emperor Jade. Tan Zixin was waiting anxiously outside the Yang Xian Palace. When she saw Ning Fan coming out, she immediately went to him and asked nervously. Has Senior finished treating my grandfather's injuries? What's the result? Tan Zixin was so nervous that her palms were wet with sweat. It's not very optimistic. Before Ning Fan could finish his words, Tan Zixin's vision darkened and she almost fainted. What she was most afraid of was that her grandfather was incurable. A single sentence of, "It's not very optimistic," had almost crushed all of her expectations. I haven't finished yet. At least, I can save the old primitive emperor's life. Ning Fan held Tan Zixin's wrist. It was cold and smooth to the touch. Tan Zixin's skin was really good. Ah! You can save my grandfather's life. Tan Zixin regained her spirit and smiled through her tears. She did not mind that her wrist was being held. If I can fish up the yin-yang dragon pearl during the convention, I can also help the old primitive emperor's demon soul to recover and restore his hope of becoming an immortal. Of course, if I can't fish it out, I can at least save his life. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Tan Zixin was so excited that she could not speak a word. After waiting for 400 years, Ning Fan had finally arrived. He could finally save her grandfather's life. If there's a chance, he could even help her grandfather to become an immortal again. For the past 400 years, she had been living in regret every single day. Now, the knot in her heart was finally resolved. When she thought of the pain her grandfather had suffered for her all these years, Tan Zixin was filled with mixed feelings of sadness and joy. Her eyes turned sour and she leaned into Ning Fan's embrace, sobbing softly. After a while, she suddenly realized that her behavior was extremely rude and reckless. Tan Zixin let out a soft cry and wiped her tears. She jumped out of Ning Fan's embrace. Her face was as red as blood and she lowered her head shyly. Impolite. I'm really impolite. She was so excited that she could not help but run into Ning Fan's arms and cry, Senior Bai Mu, I'm sorry. I dirtied your clothes. Tan Zixin said apologetically. It's all right. It's normal for one to cry tears of joy. I still have to make some preparations for the dragon fishing convention. I'll take my leave first. After the convention, I'll come back to help the old primitive emperor recover. Farewell. Ning Fan nodded slightly at Tan Zixin and turned to leave. His eyes were clear all the time. He did not have any desire towards Tan Zixin. At this moment, he was only thinking about the dragon fishing convention. Looking at Ning Fan's back that was getting further away, Tan Zixin's watery eyes were filled with gratitude and a trace of indescribable emotion. Thank you. Ning Fan returned to the Demon River Palace. Not long after, Li Long had also completed the task Ning Fan had given him. He returned with a large number of pills and heavenly ingredients and earthly treasures. There was 1 trillion immortal jade. I've used 65 billion of them. There's still 35 billion left. I've visited the demon city within a 1 billion li radius. I've bought a total of 954 6th revolution pills, 35 7th revolution pills, 107 spirit unlocking vines, 53 moon concealing flowers and 77 spirit congealing grasses. All of these items are supreme treasures that can heal one's primordial spirit. Here are the accounts. Master, please have a look to prove that I didn't embezzle any of the immortal jade. Li Long cupped his fists and stood in front of Ning Fan, bowing his head respectfully. His heart was slightly shocked. It had only been 3 days, but he could vaguely feel that Ning Fan had become much stronger. Moreover, Ning Fan seemed to be carrying some kind of secret treasure right now. That secret treasure gave Li Long, a dignified 7th breaking realm expert, a feeling that he did not dare to resist. It was as if he would be instantly killed by the secret treasure if he resisted it. 3 days ago, he did not feel such a strong sense of danger from Ning Fan. 3 days later, Ning Fan actually possessed the strength to kill him instantly. It was really shocking. There's no need to look at the accounts. You volunteered to be my servant. I believe you. You've worked hard in the past few days. Have a good rest. The Dragon Fishing Convention is just around the corner. Try to get a good result. Understood. I'll take my leave now. Li Long had traveled to hundreds of great demon cities within a billion li in just 3 days to purchase a large amount of heavenly ingredients and earthly treasures. He was indeed exhausted and needed a good rest. After Li Long left, Ning Fan entered the profound Yin world and quietly walked into the thatched cottage without disturbing Luo Yu's cultivation. He placed the storage pouch beside her and left silently. When he returned to the outside world, it was night time. After daybreak, the Dragon Fishing Convention would be held in Tianyuan City. He walked out of the house and stood in the courtyard with his hands clasped behind his back. He stood there for a long time. In his mind, he recalled Tan Tianyan's footsteps that followed him through life and death. In Tan Tianyan's footsteps, there was a kind of natural aura of life and death. He had already stepped on life and death and stood above it. This was the footsteps that a person who was about to become an immortal should have. Hua Yu stood outside Ning Fan's bedchamber for a long time. Eventually, she came to see Ning Fan with a plate of spiritual fruits and spiritual wine. This time, she did not plan to offer herself to sleep with him. She knew that even if she offered herself to sleep with him, Ning Fan might not accept her. The reason why she brought the spiritual wine and spiritual fruits was to wish Ning Fan a fruitful return from the Dragon Fishing Convention tomorrow. However, just as she stepped into Ning Fan's bedchamber, she stopped. She saw Ning Fan standing in the courtyard. At this moment, Ning Fan's body was surrounded by an aura force that was as vast as the Tao. That aura force seemed to be able to take away the life and death of others with a single thought. She knew that Ning Fan was comprehending something, so she did not dare to disturb him. On the other side, the little demoness was sitting in her boudoir in boredom. Her spirit sense was rippling back and forth in Ning Fan's bedchamber. So boring. So boring. I can't see little Fan Fan every day. My whole body is going to rust. What is little Fan Fan doing? Is he comprehending life and death? The little demoness suddenly became spirited and focused all of her attention on Ning Fan. Ning Fan did not know that there were 2 girls paying attention to him at this moment. His heart was completely immersed in the footsteps of Tan Tianyan and life and death. His Tao heart was clear. Suddenly, he took a step forward. This step seemed ordinary, but as soon as he took it, a ripple that was half black and half white emerged. At the moment when the ripple spread, half of the plants in the courtyard that were affected by the ripple withered and died, while the other half became more lush and green. But then, the ripple collapsed on its own. Ning Fan was forced to open his eyes. He stopped his step and let out a sigh. With my current realm, I still can't take this step. He stood there for the whole night and did not move even half a step. He did not know that his step had shocked the two girls at the same time. Hua Yu's realm was low, so she did not feel too shocked. She was only shocked that Ning Fan could reverse the life and death of plants. The little demoness realm was extremely high. If it wasn't because she cultivated the void scripture which caused her cultivation base to fall, she would be at the peak of 9 breaking realm. Her Tao of life and death was not as profound as the old Yuan Emperor, but all of her abilities were from the upper world. Therefore, she was still slightly stronger than the old Yuan Emperor. She could naturally see the meaning of Ning Fan's step. Stepping on life and death. He almost stepped on life and death. One should know that even the little demoness herself could not step on life and death. That was why she wanted to find the immemorial fisherman's straw painting and take that step. Once she took that step, she could officially step into the life immortal realm. When Ning Fan was at the vein opening realm, her cultivation base was already at the peak of 9 breaking realm. Now, she had yet to become an immortal, but he had already caught up to her. Just like her, he was also working hard to step on life and death. This was just too unbelievable. Even though little Fan Fan has yet to take this step, it's already amazing that he can start to try. TSK TSK TSK. This descendant of ancient chaos really has a monstrous aptitude. If I don't work hard in my cultivation, I won't be able to complete the ancestral teachings in the future and pester him. How troublesome. The night ended and the sun rose. In the sky above Tianyuan City, 8 void fragmentation realm experts of the Origin Palace suddenly appeared and tore open the crack of the heavenly dwelling above the Origin Palace. Above the vast sky, a huge pond with clear purple ripples suddenly appeared. 4 jade platforms floated in the air around the pond. The pond couldn't be seen from below. It could only be seen from above. The bottom of the pond was inside the heavenly dwelling. That pond was the dragon-raising pond. Its water area was millions of li and there were demonic dragons hiding at the bottom of the pond. There was a realm-breaking light in the pond. Other than the dragon souls that were nurtured using secret techniques, no one could enter the dragon-raising pond. There were 500 small islands on the surface of the water. They were prepared for the 500 cultivators to stand on. There was still a grand formation above the water area. It was not time to open the formation yet. The dragon fishing convention is about to begin. Countless old monsters in the Tianyuan city opened their eyes at this moment and flew to the sky. Each of them either went to the 4 jade platforms to be the audience of the convention or stood outside the formation light of the dragon-raising pond. They took out their fishing rods and were ready to enter the pond to fish for demon dragons. Countless old monsters sat on the 4 jade platforms. Only the cultivators of the Origin Palace and the demon sovereigns could sit on the jade platform in the north. This time, the 10 purple golden seats were all occupied except for the empty seat of the ape sovereign. Out of the 10 great demon sovereigns of the demon world, 9 of them came at once. These demon sovereigns used the teleportation formation in the inner realm to travel through the world passage and arrived at the Origin Palace. The teleportation formation in the inner realm cost 10 billion immortal jade to teleport one person. It could teleport people across the entire demon world. The demon sovereigns who didn't attend the competition in the Immortal Ascension Tower gathered in the Origin Palace this time. Naturally, they wanted to see the person who was famous in the demon world, Old Ancestor Bai Mu. On the jade platform in the north, there were 2 low-profile figures. One of them was a white-haired girl. She wasn't a peerless beauty but she could be considered delicate and pretty. However, her eyes were terrifyingly old. She was the old ancestor of the Fox Palace, the old Fox Sovereign. In order to see Ning Fan, who had comprehended the Tao light of life and death, she didn't hesitate to come to the Origin Palace personally. The other person was an old man in red robes. He was the old ancestor of the Red Palace, the old Red Sovereign. Naturally, the reason why he came to this place was also for Ning Fan. The old Yuan sovereign also showed up in a low-profile manner. He sat in the middle of the two rogue demons. If he wasn't here, it would be hard to control such a grand occasion. Old Monster Tan, you really have a good eye for talent. You can actually see that this young man is extraordinary and try to rope him in. I heard that your granddaughter is very close to this Bai Mu. The old Red Sovereign said expressionlessly. Hee hee. Old Monster Tan has always had a sharp eye. It's not like you don't know. Many years ago, the three of us went to the Life Immortals ruins together and found 3 treasures. At that time, you wanted the Scarlet Heaven Golden Crown while I wanted the water-suppressing Immortal Sword. Both of us thought that we got the strongest treasure in the ruins. However, Old Monster Tan insisted on getting the most inconspicuous Heavenly Abode Pearl. TSK. At that time, who would have thought that this Heavenly Abode Pearl wasn't an ordinary high-grade Heavenly Abode treasure? The old Fox Sovereign's voice was hoarse. His eyes were filled with envy when he looked at Tan Tianyin. The Heavenly Abode Pearl contained the lifetime comprehension of a life immortal. All of them were obtained by Tan Tianyin. That was why he was able to take half a step into the immortal path. The Heavenly Abode Pearl itself was an extremely powerful Heavenly Abode magical treasure. There wasn't only a high-grade Heavenly Abode space inside the pearl. Instead, there was an infinite number of Heavenly Abodes. If a rogue demon of the same level was sucked into the Heavenly Abode Pearl, it wouldn't be able to escape without certain means. Hee hee. Since when have I ever had a sharp eye? I'm just acting according to my own nature. When I first met Bai Mu, I didn't know that he was this powerful. I just felt that I got along well with him. That's why I gave him some opportunities. However, I didn't expect that it would be a great opportunity for me. When I first met the Heavenly Abode Pearl, I didn't know how powerful this treasure was. However, how could I have the nerve to compete for immortal treasures with you two when you were trying to save me? That's why I took the most inferior Heavenly Abode Pearl. However, I didn't expect that this pearl would be the most extraordinary treasure. The old primitive emperor smiled faintly and said no more. The old Red Emperor and the old Fox Sovereign exchanged glances and smiled helplessly. Look! Old Ancestor Bai Mu is here. No one knew who was the first to shout from the 4 jade platforms. All of a sudden, everyone's gaze shifted towards a certain direction in the vast sky. In that direction, Li Long, who was following behind Ning Fan, was flying towards them with a respectful look on his face. He isn't Bai Mu. On the East Jade platform, a man in a cloak was sitting on an inconspicuous seat. His eyes were glowing with a faint green light that contained endless evil intent. When Lord Cheng Huang meets up with me, I will expose your identity in front of everyone. Speaking of which, why hasn't Lord Cheng Huang contacted me yet? The cloaked man's face was filled with confusion. He was Cheng Huang's demon servant, but he was just a servant in name. Besides, he had planted any restrictions on him and did not have many methods to contact Cheng Huang. He had the only sound transmitting compass and he had yet to receive any reply from Cheng Huang. Wait. When Lord Cheng Huang meets up with me, I will expose you. It's better for me to keep a low profile since I'm alone. He knew his own capabilities. Although he had broken through to the second heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm in just a few thousand years, his cultivation base was increased by plucking. Of course, his cultivation base was based on harvesting, so his aura was weak, and his battle prowess was so weak that not even a first demolisher would be able to defeat him. At most, he could only bully void refinement realm cultivators with his current cultivation base. He was quietly waiting for Cheng Huang's arrival. However, he did not know that Cheng Huang was already dead and would never come again. It's Senior Bai Mu. Tan Zixin, who was standing behind the old Yuan emperor's back, suddenly had her eyes lit up. Is he Senior Bai Mu? Why does he give me a strange sense of familiarity? A young man stood behind Chu Huang. He was called Crown Prince Chu Shun. He had just attained the Void Refinement realm a few months ago. Now, he was already a Void Glimpse stage cultivator. However, with his Void Glimpse stage cultivation base, he still had to address Ning Fan as senior. Of course, he did not know that Bai Mu, who was the center of attention, was someone he was very familiar with. Bai Yu, Bai Mu, and Liu Bei from the Luoyun sect were the same person, Bai Mu. He Shishou's eyes turned slightly grim. All the eyes of the cultivators present were focused on Ning Fan. On the contrary, no one paid attention to him, the mysterious old monster with the surname He. Even those demon sovereigns who knew his true identity did not pay much attention to him. This made him feel like he was inferior to Ning Fan, which made him feel very displeased. Daoist child, don't forget the purpose of this trip. Yun Yomu sighed and reminded him. He was Ning Fan's servant. He could not tell He Shishou about Ning Fan's strength. However, he also did not want to see He Shishou offend Ning Fan and die. Thus, he reminded him in an attempt to divert He Shishou's attention. You're right. I was only thinking about Bai Mu and I almost forgot the purpose of this trip. We are here for the Yin Yang Dragon Pearl. I have already obtained an item from the Jade Dao sect. With this item, my luck will be close to the purple color in a short period of time. If there is a Yin dragon or Yang dragon in this place, I will certainly be the only one who can fish it up. Theoretically speaking, Void Fragmentation Realm experts could cultivate purple luck. However, there were too few Void Fragmentation Realm experts who had purple luck, and there were even fewer of them in the lower world. Fishing for a dragon had a requirement of technique and also a requirement of luck. If one does not have fishing skills, it would naturally be impossible to fish for a dragon. If one does not have luck, it would be useless no matter how good one's fishing skills are. There were countless talented and intelligent people in the world. However, most of them did not have good luck and achieved nothing in their lives. There were countless mediocre people in the world. However, if they could seize the opportunity, they could amaze the world with a single brilliant feat and soar to the sky. Luck was also a type of great Tao. In this meeting, I will definitely fish up the most demon dragons. As for that Bai Mu, his luck is too weak. It's not as good as mine. He Shishou took out a pearl with 4 colors. It was green, cyan, blue and purple. He held the pearl and shone it at Ning Fan's direction and made a judgment. There was no reaction from the pearl. Ning Fan's luck must be below the green color. Red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue and purple. Green luck was the 4th grade of mortal luck. He Shishou really despised a dignified Void Fragmentation Realm expert for having the 4th grade of mortal luck. Of course, he did not know that the surface of Ning Fan's luck was black. Thus, the pearl could not detect any luck. However, Ning Fan's actual luck was purple. It was the 1st grade of mortal luck. Among the mortal luck, there was no one whose luck was higher than purple. Ning Fan's fishing skills might not be the best in this place, but his luck was the best in this place. It seems like there aren't as many people with strong luck as I imagined. Ning Fan walked to the edge of the formation light of the dragon fishing pond. His eyes swept across the crowd and he was slightly surprised. Initially, he thought that any Void Fragmentation Realm cultivator would be able to attain purple luck. However, it seemed like it was just his wishful thinking. How could it be that easy to cultivate one's luck? He could see through luck. The strongest person here only had blue luck, which was the 2nd grade of mortal luck. Theoretically, everyone who cultivated all the way to the Void Fragmentation Realm would have the chance to attain purple luck. However, the reality was obviously very different from the theory. Hee. Most of the fellow Taoists have arrived. Then, allow me to explain the rules of this dragon fishing convention. Great Elder Zhou Nan stood up and cupped his fists at the cultivators in all directions. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.